Hello, my little ninjas. My name's Mike. This is my YouTube page, Mox News. Welcome to your Wake and Bake News at 7 p.m. I'm your host, Moxie. All right, so I have a few videos for you tonight. I hope we have a lively discussion. I'm very interested in this, in the withdrawal from Afghanistan, the war in Afghanistan, what led up to the war in Afghanistan. All of these things I'm very fascinated by. So if you'd like to have the discussion, this is a call-in show. There is a telephone number right there on the screen, 805-669-6397, and I'd love to talk to you about it. That being said, I'm so ready for a bong hit, boys and girls. I hope you're ready for one too. I am going to make that happen momentarily. I hate seeing what's going on in Afghanistan. I hate seeing it because we caused it. We being the U.S. government and the Pentagon. I hate seeing it because because the Taliban just smashed the world's only superpower, just smashed to pieces all the garbage in the Pentagon. They just smashed it. They just showed that $100 trillion military can't beat people living in caves and mud huts. Okay, and they talk about, oh, is the Taliban halfway defeated now? No, the Taliban is 100 or 1,000 times stronger than they have ever been. They just defeated the world's only superpower. They gotta be on top of the world, man. They're like, yeah, we are now the world's only superpower. I don't know what the hell they're thinking, but all I can think is, you know, they're the winners. The Taliban won, and the Pentagon lost. And you hear this talk about the withdrawals of troops, and first off, when this whole withdrawal started, right? What I saw is they said that they had like 3,700 troops in Afghanistan to withdraw, right? And they started withdrawing. We saw them loading up the planes. We saw, soldiers getting on the plane all together as if they're coming home. They're coming home at 3,500 of them. And now Biden is sending in 6,000. So we're withdrawing the troops, but, we took out 3,500, but we sent 6,000 in. These are some really basic stuff that, again, I am a very simple guy. I depend on really simple logic to understand things. One of the things I'm hearing about today is, we planned for all contingencies, all possible outcomes, and which is what the Pentagon says again and again. The thing is, right, this is not, I mean, this is how the Pentagon's wars end, right? The fall of Saigon, they get fucking run out with their tail between their ears. Why are we fucking paying $100 trillion to people who said it will take at least 3 weeks for the Taliban to take over Kabul? They said we're going to Afghanistan. We're gonna go and defeat these people living in caves and mud huts, right? Meanwhile, 17 of the 19 hijackers came from Saudi Arabia. Okay, I don't see anybody giving Saudi Arabia a hard time. In fact, when there was a complete and total shutdown of U.S. airspace immediately following September 11th. I talked about this a little bit. Me and my friend Sam used to go up on top of his apartment building, and we just look at the sky, and he would say, "It's never going to be like this again." I say, "What you mean?" He said, "Because there's never going to be like no planes in the sky." right? So right after 9/11, there was a complete and total lockdown of U.S. airspace, right? So meanwhile, right after 9/11, during the complete and total lockdown of U.S. airspace, numerous Saudi Arabian citizens were scooped up and put on an airplane to travel out of our country. Why? Why would that be happening with Saudi Arabians? They had nothing to do with it, right? So why do we have to rush the Saudi Arabians out of the country? Why is that top priority in the middle of an airspace lockdown? If it was Afghanistan, if it was Al-Qaeda, why do we have to worry about Saudi Arabian citizens, right? Because it wasn't Afghanistan. And Al-Qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden, trained by the CIA and a U.S. government asset, apparently, pulled off the largest terrorist attack, I don't know, the world has ever seen. This on American soil, this country has ever seen. And again, a trained by CIA, Osama bin Laden, an asset to the U.S. government. Apparently, right up until 9/11, possibly during 9/11 and after 9/11, at least the way I see things. So we have to run off to Afghanistan, where we already have, 5,000 CIA officers, agents. They're over there. They got all their contacts. They know what's going on over there. They're training fucking people. Okay? The CIA is over there training Afghanis, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, different military operations, different use of weapons. This is what the CIA is doing with Osama bin Laden. And, and it comes down to, 20 years. 20 years in Afghanistan, accomplishing absolutely nothing. And now, after 20 years of war, now we care about the children of Afghanistan so much. Oh, and don't forget the women. We care about the women of Afghanistan. Have you seen story after story during the last 20 years about the women of Afghanistan or the children of Afghanistan? Have you seen those stories day after day after day? Because I haven't seen that. Now, I have seen, obviously, what is important, which is COVID-19, fear, 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 fear. It's not, oh, look at how the women of Afghanistan are doing so much better, and the children are having food, and they're not desperate, and they're not picking up the remnants of cluster bombs, blowing their arms and legs off to try and get some spare money from collecting scrap metal. Do you know what a cluster bomb is? Do you know that they were dropped all over Afghanistan? Do you know that they're illegal? Do you know why they're illegal? Do you know why they call them a cluster bomb? They call them a cluster bomb because they look like any other bomb. Like big old bomb, look, we're going to bomb these people, right? The cluster bomb falls, it opens up, and like 1,000 little hand grenade sized bombs go out, for like a 200-foot radius, right? And then the children of Afghanistan. Oh, the thing is that of these little hand grenade sized bombs that blow up anything, like I said, within a certain radius, only like 80% of them blow up, which leaves 20% of these little hand grenades laying around. If you step on one, if you run over with one with your vehicle, they're basically known for blowing the arms and legs off of little children who pick them up for scrap metal, so they can have a little bit of spare change to be able to buy some food. That's what, oh, we're so concerned about the children of Afghanistan. How can you not have a heart when it comes to the children of Afghanistan? The Pentagon clearly has no heart when it comes to anyone's children, including your own. They intend to send your children off to war in a meat grinder just as soon as we can get it started. If you don't know that, you're not paying attention. The Pentagon is filled with complete boobs. Is our leadership in the Pentagon. You know, they couldn't predict that the Taliban would be taking over Kabul in just a few days' time. Kabul. They couldn't predict that. They couldn't predict that the Taliban would be taking over the capital of Afghanistan in just a few days. They said it was going to take at least weeks. Okay, so let's see. On September 11th, they have a complete and utter intelligence failure. You know, and then there's one after another after another. Oh, and then there's the lies that got us into a war in Iraq in which we killed 1 million innocent people. I'm sorry, this United States government and its bullshit fucking Pentagon killed 1 million innocent people in Iraq after lying us into that war. And one after another fuck up. They won't take care of the soldiers. The soldiers come home, they're broken. They need so much help. You know, this PTSD thing. They're like, oh yeah, you can't have cannabis. Cannabis is probably the single best thing available for post-traumatic stress. Oh no, you have to take this cocktail of pharmaceuticals to try and get you to not feel so bad about serving in the U.S. military, right? Because why should you feel bad about serving in the U.S. military? They make great things happen for women and children, don't you know? Aren't you paying attention? The U.S. military, they're the only reason women and children still exist in this country, especially the Middle East. You can see the telephone number on the screen, I hope. This is a call-in show. I'm ready for a bong hit. I think what we will do is we will play a little video, and I will heat up the bong, and we will have a bong hit momentarily. You know... Oh, okay. Let's see what we got here. Hello, caller.
Hey, Mike. How are you tonight?
I'm fine.
Good. That's good. I'm actually in a good mood tonight.
Wow, congratulations.
Believe it or not.
I was listening to Glenn.
Yeah,
I was listening to Glenn Greenwald earlier.
Yeah.
And when I was listening to the way he talks a lot like you. I was really surprised.
You know, Glenn Greenwald was also a policy debater like I was. We both were in debate when we were in college and in high school. That might be why. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to say a lot of things, but first and foremost, the Taliban deserve recognition today. They deserve recognition, and I don't know how I feel about their version of Islam or their version of how they live in the high desert, in the foothills of the fucking tallest mountains on earth. But you know what? As an American, it isn't my business to tell those people how to live. They're going to have to figure it out themselves, and they just defeated the greatest military power on the planet in a protracted 20-year-long war. And they will remember this day, the day they recaptured their capital, just like the people of Vietnam will remember the day that Saigon fell, the day that the invaders were kicked out of their country. And this was the same government that was in power 20 years ago. So really, nothing changed except for in a 20-year interval, we completely destroyed the infrastructure. We killed 150,000 people died, right? Another couple 100,000 people were wounded. Millions of people were displaced. There are now more Afghan refugees, like in Belgium and in Northern Europe, in some countries, like right on par. The other group of refugees are from Syria in Europe right now. Lots of Afghan refugees, all caused from the graces of American tax dollars and American military leaders and American politicians deciding that we need to take this country over to build democracy, to build empire, to build the infrastructure, to make them part of the Western Empire. And we fucking failed. So I give credit to the people of Afghanistan, Mike, and that would be the people who are ruling their own country without a foreign government pumping all this money in to make it look as though they're in control.
Yeah, let me say, when you say the credit, the Taliban deserve credit, what I see is the Taliban being amazing patriots to their country, standing strong for 20 years, and then kicking the shit out of the world's biggest military. So they're true patriots. I mean, like you said, I don't know about their values towards women or other religions or anything like that, freedom in particular. But those people that kick the U.S. asses, they're real patriots of Afghanistan. And there can't be any doubt about that, if you understand the word patriot.
And just like in Vietnam, all of the people who were Afghan citizens who helped torture their fellow citizens, who ratted out and gave the names of fellow citizens to the American empire.
Even ones that weren't involved with any kind of sinister activity, they would rat out their neighbors because then they would get a reward on it. So you know.
And when this happens, whenever this happens, anywhere on earth for all time, this is what happens. There will be repercussions. People will go to jail, people will die, so on and so forth. This is the nature of like regime change.
And not only will people go to jail and people will die, terrorists will be created from 20 years of war, from killing their mothers, killing their fathers, killing their brothers, killing their sisters. Terrorists will be created in mass numbers, which, in my opinion, is a big part of what the Pentagon does. And I think it must be part of their plan. It's like I keep saying, the CIA needs terrorists, the police need criminals, the for-profit medical industrial complex needs sick people. What's that?
Well, okay, fair point. But I would say the Taliban, okay, they have done this before. They've ruled this country before, so they have some experience. They also have built up credibility, like you said, as they're seen as patriots. So they have an opportunity to rebuild their country. Also, China and Russia have both just kind of sent kind of lukewarm, messages to them, to the extent that if they do respect the rights of women, and if they can, kind of temper their conservative values, they're willing to work with them. And they can become part of economic development that's funded by China, which doesn't come at the end of a barrel of a gun. All right? That's not how China is developing the world. They're developing the world by making agreements for trade and money. And then they're building infrastructure and giving them deals for trade, like airports and ports and all of that stuff. So if they're willing to work with them, they don't need NATO. They don't need the United States for their investment to make their country work. And if Iran sells oil to China, they can make a pipeline, just go right across that country, Afghanistan, go right to China, and then China gets its resources it needs for its manufacturing. Fuck the United States and the U.S. dollar. That's part of it, too. I think you're right, though, Mike. The CIA isn't going anywhere.
CIA's not going anywhere.
They've fostered all these people in Afghanistan for years. They're certainly not going away.
Yeah, no, the CIA is very entrenched in Afghanistan. They were very entrenched before the 2001 September 11th. The CIA was entrenched all during the 80s when the Russians were there in war. The CIA presence has been in Afghanistan almost my entire life.
Probably, I see it. I remember, in 1979, when the government of Afghanistan fell, and there was a pro-Russian government that came to power, a socialist government that came to power, and then we supported the overthrow of that government, and that's what drew Russia into Afghanistan, which was seen as a trap because we thought that if we drew the Russians in, and in fact, the USSR, one of the reasons that's given for the USSR collapsing, there's a few of them, but it's the morale that was destroyed in Russia after that war. You know, they sent their soldiers there, and the same thing happened to them. Only in a 10-year period of time, not over 20 years, but the same thing happened to them, and they became demoralized, and they wasted a lot of money on this war that they really didn't have to spend, and it affected their economy. And when when their whole system imploded, that was one of the reasons why it imploded. They had been drawn into this big fucking war that they had no reason to be in whatsoever. And I think America is similar to the Soviet Union, Mike, on that score. We got a totalitarian government that is a security state, no privacy. They control you with money, basically. Like if you don't have money, you can't live, so you're forced to be like enslaved in the economy, kind of. And also, these, civil liberties and civil rights and democracy, those seem to be a lot of words that don't mean very much these days, like freedom of speech, freedom of your privacy rights, and so on and so forth. So, the people in Russia got sick of that, and they said, fuck this. And they said, we're going to go out in the streets, and like V for Vendetta, they changed their government. And I think that this superpower, I think this is a momentous day, Mike. I really do. I think Americans, like 22 veterans a day commit suicide because of PTSD, a lot of it from Afghanistan and Iraq. I think a lot of soldiers in the United States are going to be looking at themselves in the mirror, and they're going to be asking themselves, what did I do this for? What the fuck actually was going on? And when they ask those questions, they'll find the answers, and they'll discover they were used so that munitions and arms companies could make money, so banks could make money, so people could make money, and they were just fucking cannon fodder for the rich, like they always are. And they'll discover that. So I think it's an opportunity, a learning moment for America.
I sure hope so. I just don't see it as anything new. I don't know how the people of this country can believe anything the Pentagon says anymore. I mean, they're complete and utter fuck ups as far as I can tell, and they lie and lie and lie and lie and lie and lie.
Yes.
I mean, how can any... Yes. I mean, this is the one source that we should be able to trust above all. Like the police, we should be able to trust them above all. And what do we see? We see them brutalizing people in the streets and then lying about it again and again and again. Completely untrustworthy, completely full of shit, and they just don't do what they're supposed to do.
Just last week, the president said the capital of Afghanistan is solid and he just said on TV, he just lied on fucking TV. And the Secretary of State did the exact same thing. They both lied on national television about like the real situation, and anybody who saw that knows it was a lie. It just obviously they knew. I mean, this is not an intelligence failure by any stretch.
Right.
They knew what the fuck was happening. So for him to say that a few days ago on television, and now I don't know what he said tonight, but that is what I mean about loss of confidence. Like when people watch the president blatantly lie to them on TV, they may vote, they may not vote, but they know their government is lying to them. Whether they watch CNN or fucking Fox News, it doesn't matter. It's like critical thinking. It's like you look at this, that guy said this, and this happened, and he lied.
But
there's no politics involved there.
But
it's really simple.
But how many real critical thinkers are there out there? What percentage of people? You know what I mean? If you're watching CNN or Fox News, there's a good chance that you're a blank slate, and you just think what they tell you to think.
Like the Matrix, it's really scary. Two more facts and I'll go. First of all, the money. Okay, so I've heard this number all day, $2.1 trillion being the cost of the war.
Uh-huh.
But I read an article, and I don't have the site. Other people will have to find it, Google it, or whatever. But there was $2 trillion spent on the Afghan war, all right, which is about as much money as the government spends in a year. But on everything, there was $6.5 trillion in interest on that debt. So the real amount of money that will be paid for the Afghan war will be paid over like 50 years by the viewers and grandchildren, and it'll be tallied up to about $8 billion is how much it costs. $8 trillion. $8 trillion. So from $2 trillion is the number that they're talking about. But in fact, that's borrowed money. When you take the interest into consideration, it ends up being $8 trillion, $8.5 trillion over time. Just want that to sink in. Like, not only is this a fucking disaster, but the USSR was bankrupt. You know, the United States after Vietnam owed a lot of money. It did affect our economy. You know, there's all kinds of factors involved. But like, that's a lot of money, Mike.
Yeah.
$8 trillion. We could have burned that money. We could have had a big bonfire right there on the Capitol Mall and just burned that money, and it would have been used more constructively than killing 150,000 people.
The world would have been a better place just burning the money.
Okay, and then the last point I wanted to make is there's been a lot of stuff in the media today, like the New York Times, National Public Radio, CNN, a couple of places I looked at today, that have been talking about the fear. Like the headline in the New York Times was, Taliban create sense of fear. And I was just like going, oh my God, it was like 2-inch header in the newspaper.
Yeah.
I'm like, how much fear was created when we dropped bombs and tortured people? When we tortured people for 20 years in a fucking private security prison, you think people were terrorized then, Mr. Writer at the New York Times? But anyway, I found this other place from Moonavon, Alabama, and this is what he said. He's talking about what's actually happening on the ground. And he says that the media is projecting this story. It says, those sad stories are an aside in the larger picture, but it doesn't reflect how little control America has over the airport. The pictures will dominate the news cycle and upset further evacuation plans. That would actually be good, as the current chaos is totally unnecessary. This is the important part. There have been very few revenge acts by the Taliban around the country. They have clear orders to not commit any, and they behave very disciplined. There is no proof that anyone's security in Kabul, be they diplomats or Afghan civilians of any stripe, is in any danger. And then there's a statement from a spokesperson from the Taliban. Right? And even though this is the case, America is still sending 7,000 soldiers to this airport that's probably like as big as the park that you and the dogs go walk around, right? And we're going to send 7,000 troops to this airport. But from people on the ground, according to Moon of Alabama, where I'm citing this from, there's many sites if you go to his site. It's like he describes the situation around the city, and in fact, it's not chaotic. Okay, there are people running to the airport, and yes, if you tortured people in a prison, you'd be running for the airport. Of course, we talked about that's normal, right? But in terms of like around the country and around the Capitol, you know, things are actually functioning. So it isn't as chaotic as like the newspapers and the television stations are projecting it as. These people actually have control of the government, and that's important to remember, that they're just feeding us fear. And those are a lot of points, so I'll stop, Mike. I did cut flowers today. That was fun.
Right on. That's nice. That's a nice way to work, I would think.
Yeah, I cut two strains. One is an LA Kush Cake, and the other was Slurricane, which is just a hybrid flower. Slurricane looks more like your classic sativa, kind of like Christmas tree shape,
yeah.
You know, like with that lime green.
Yeah.
And then the other one, the LA Kush Cake, wow, it had like, it almost looked like a cactus, kind of like, It had these, or like an aloe vera plant, you know, with those spikes that come out of it. The flower had all these spikes coming out of it, and it was a purple flower. So those are the two strains I worked with today, and it was a really great day to work because it cooled down. Temperature dropped like, you know, about 10 degrees. It just felt nice to be outdoors. So, but I think it's a momentous day, and I'm going to look forward to the rest of the callers. And I know some people might be upset because they're invested in like what they think America is, but you know, I really hope that those people take the time to just step back and look at what really happened there. It's like, we tried to take over a country and we failed, and we've done it so many times in the past. War is not a good policy ever. And anyway, have a good night, Mike.
Okay, Chris. I'll talk to you later. Okay.
Yeah, peace.
So Chris was talking about how the Taliban So he was citing some article where he's saying that the Taliban is spreading so much fear, so much fear. Oh no, he was talking about a headline that was saying the Taliban induces new anxiety over great fears or whatever it was. Something fear. But it's not the Taliban that's doing it. It's the media. The media does it every day in 1,000 different ways, even though for the last year it's only been one way. But it's always fear. Oh, the Taliban's taken over. Fear. Really what we have to fear is our Pentagon, obviously, and our government. As I've said again and again, our government and our Pentagon are complete fuck-ups. First, they allowed September 11, 2001 attacks to happen. They allowed it to happen. The CIA trained Osama bin Laden. Okay? There was drills on September 11, 2001, the day of the event. There was drills, military drills, about captured hijacked civilian airliners. These were the drills, and the people that would normally, the jets that would normally be scrambled to take action against the planes that were hijacked, they were told to stand down because these were military drills. They were operations. They weren't actually hijackers. They were going to cause the biggest terrorist attack on American soil in American history. Okay, our government, our Pentagon, complete and utter. There's one or two things. Either they're completely and totally evil motherfuckers who are committing evil against their own country, our government, our Pentagon, or they're complete and utter fuck-ups. One or the other, your choice. So I'm going to play a video for you now, and you can think about it and tell me when I get back, okay, what you think. I thought this was interesting, and I thought that you might find it interesting also. I'll be right back.
And welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show on Newsmax. As if the faltering economy weren't enough, as if the multiple crises of the...
Dang it, not that one. That is not the one I wanted. Let's see. Nope. Oh, I clicked the wrong one. Hold on, here we go. There.
I'm Will Kane, and technically, when you talk out of both sides of your mouth, it means you give different opinions in different situations. But for President Joe Biden, it means you give a different opinion in different, although back-to-back, sentences of the very same speech. For the past 72 hours, during one of the most embarrassing episodes in American history, President Biden was hunkered down like a threatened Afghan translator, hiding from the news that the Taliban was taking over Afghanistan. Like, we watched on Sunday, worried we might see demoralizing images reminiscent of the retreat from Saigon, with would-be refugees hanging to helicopter skids. We woke up this morning and we realized it was much, much worse, as we saw images of the bodies of would-be refugees falling from the wheel wells of C-17s leaving Kabul airport. Let's just take a moment and realize that over the past year, we have talked about and debated how oppressive this great country is, while we watch people literally cling to the opportunity to be Americans. But from President Joe Biden, silence. Silence until today. In one breath, in a speech before the nation, Biden told us that he planned for every contingency. And in the next breath, he explained why he's quickly and suddenly sending thousands of Marines to secure the airport.
We were clear-eyed about the risks. We planned for every contingency. I was asked to authorize, and I did, 6,000 U.S. troops to deploy to Afghanistan for the purpose of assisting in the departure of U.S. and allied civilian personnel from Afghanistan, and to evacuate our Afghan allies and vulnerable Afghans to safety outside of Afghanistan.
This is the weirdest drawdown in history, a withdrawal where you increase your troop levels. Look, in one sentence, he claimed that human rights will always be at the top of America's values. And in the next, he explained he's abandoning the Afghans to the Taliban.
I've been clear, the human rights must be the center of our foreign policy, not the periphery. But the way to do it is not through endless military deployments.
Joe Biden spent the vast majority of his speech deflecting blame, pointing at President Trump, pointing at the Afghan people, pointing at the Afghan army, and then suddenly in one sentence says the buck stops with him.
When I came into office, I inherited a deal that President Trump negotiated with the Taliban. The political leaders of Afghanistan were unable to come together for the good of their people, unable to negotiate for the future of their country. I am President of the United States of America, and the buck stops with me.
What a masterclass in doublespeak. That's grade A gaslighting, as the kids say. Always wrong, but never in doubt. Joe Biden has been wrong on every foreign policy decision in his career, and he managed to contradict himself in a matter of minutes, which, if we're being honest, means he's beginning to perfect his craft, because it took a full month for this embarrassing statement to be proven total malarkey.
The Taliban is not the North Vietnamese army. They're not remotely comparable in terms of capability. There's going to be no circumstance where you see people being lifted off the roof of an embassy of the United States from Afghanistan. It is not at all comparable.
Whoops. Look, Joe Biden spent most of his speech justifying the decision to leave Afghanistan, and the vast majority of American people want to leave Afghanistan, more than 70%, according to most polls. 3 presidential administrations have tried to leave Afghanistan. Now, there's a worthy debate to be had as to whether we should have left a residual force as a base to fight terrorism. But virtually no one wants to try to turn that collection of tribes into a Jeffersonian democracy. But whether to leave and how we leave are 2 separate questions. And how we have left, with our pants around our ankles, an international embarrassment that will cost America dearly, should cost Joe Biden his job. President Biden owns this humiliation. He is incompetent and incapable of doing the job. He should resign. But his resignation papers should be stapled to the top military generals who built this house in Afghanistan on a foundation of sand. How is it we were told for 2 decades that America was winning in Afghanistan, only to see the Afghan National Army wash away in 8 days? How is it that all the preeminent military, the most preeminent military on the face of this planet, the best we could do was manage chaos? You see, President Biden wasn't the only one saying everything would be okay in Afghanistan. Here is his chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley.
The Afghan security forces have the capacity to sufficiently fight and defend their country. A negative outcome, a Taliban automatic military takeover, is not a foregone conclusion. We will continue to monitor the situation closely and make adjustments as necessary.
Our top military leaders have been wrong, or they've lied to us, about this war for 2 decades. What's the mission? What's the plan? What's the goal? What's the status? Are we winning? That clip you just watched, that was Milley in July. Now, that's less than a month ago, but it was 1 month after he told us that his focus was not necessarily on how to leave Kabul, but rather his focus was on white rage.
I've read Mao Zedong. I've read Karl Marx. I've read Lenin. That doesn't make me a communist. So what is wrong with understanding, having some situational understanding about the country for which we are here to defend? I want to understand white rage, and I'm white.
White rage. That's what he wants to understand, white rage. Well, I think it's safe to say showing very little understanding of the situation on the ground in Afghanistan. Did you know that this past weekend, our national security apparatus, specifically the Department of Homeland Security, this is just days before al-Qaeda would ride into Afghanistan, published a list of potential terror threats. Number 2 on that list, people that question the results of the presidential election in 2020. Number 1 on the list, people that oppose lockdowns, school closures, mask and vaccine mandates. This was published as a bunch of goat herders with AKs sent the world's preeminent militarily chaotically on the run. Our political leaders, our top generals, our military brass, our national security apparatus are grossly incompetent, or worse, corrupt. And their resignation letters should be stapled to Joe Biden's.
All right, so did you hear what he said? He said, what did he say? He said, dang it, what did he say? He said, oh, he was talking about the Department of Homeland Security or whichever, three-letter service it was. The spooks in this country are telling us that, what was he saying? Oh, the threats we have to look out for most coming up to the anniversary, the 20th anniversary of 9/11. By the way, I'm going to take a bong hit here momentarily. The threats we have to worry about most are people that are having problem with COVID restrictions and people that are mad at the government. Or something like that. What was the other one? I don't know. But because you don't want to wear a mask and the government's making you wear a mask, you are now a national security threat. Is that right? Is that right, Joe Biden? This is when I say the Pentagon and our the White House, our government, the Congress. This is how fucked up these people are first line of defense, and they're worried about people who don't want to wear masks. Oh, I'm feeling much better now. All right, so where were we? That was good. Right, so if these are the people that are supposed to be our first line of defense, the people who are there, their sole job is to protect the citizens of this country, and they're pointing their finger at the citizens who don't like all these fucking laws, all this fucking tyranny that's being placed upon them. And they're saying, that's the real threat. That's the real threat. The citizens of this country who may unite and decide that they're going to take back their government. That's the real threat to our country. No, that's the threat to pieces of garbage sitting in Washington, D.C., collecting their cushy paycheck in their cushy job where nobody's ever going to fire them and they're always going to get out of everything because they're a congressman or the president. You can do anything you want. You can go kill 1 million innocent people completely based on lies and nobody's ever going to challenge you. You can even make money off of it. This is the government we have. This is the people we have, and they're just complete fuck-ups, right? They're pointing the finger at you because you don't like restrictions on your life that says you can't go out to dinner. That makes you a threat to this country. That makes you a potential terrorist. Oh wait, you were already a potential terrorist. What? You didn't know that you were already a potential terrorist? Well, you're not paying attention to the laws, are you? According to the National Defense Authorization Act, each and every single member of this country is a potential terrorist. This is why we're able to spy on your 12-year-old daughter's cell phone. Every text message she sends, every photo she takes, every video she films. Collected with her name on it because she is a potential enemy combatant. Because your 12-year-old daughter is a potential enemy combatant. It's not because the government's full of a bunch of perverts who like spying on your 12-year-old daughters. How could anyone ever think something like that? It's because you're all potentially terrorist. You know it. I know it. The people in Washington, D.C. certainly know it. Because we have free will. I've told you this before. Humans are dangerous. To underestimate a human could actually be extremely dangerous to you. Now, that being said, I don't think the people of this country, I don't think the government of this country should be looking at people in blocks and then referring to them as terrorists, right? How many people in this country have a problem with the previous election? All those people have a problem with, I don't know, just the last election or the 2000 election or all the elections, right? Those people are terrorists. I'm sorry, potential terrorists. At a time of a war on terror, which means there's really no potential terrorist, there's really only terrorist. That's the way your government looks at you. Oh, you don't like the COVID restrictions? You're a terrorist. You know, I really think that we should run. Well, we'll talk about it later. It needs to be talked about in great detail, and don't want to just blurt it out and then not go anywhere with it. The thing is, you're a terrorist. Your government thinks you're a terrorist. Do you believe that that's the way you deserve to be looked at by your government? Do you think that that's a good government? Do you think that that's a government that should continue on for another single day? Because I do not. And because I have those views, our government looks at me most likely not as a potential terrorist, but as a borderline terrorist. This close, baby. You take one more step, you're over that line. And it's because I point out again and again and again, China's not the threat to your freedom. China's not the threat to your freedom. Okay? Russia's not the threat to your freedom. Iran is not the threat to your freedom. The threat to your freedom, the only threat to your freedom, which tries to restrict it more and more every single day, is in Washington, D.C. and your local governments. Hello, caller.
Hey, Max. Wow, man. What a shit show of a weekend, man. Wow, you know? Like, you're more likely to see a UFO than someone from the Biden administration over the weekend, man. What a crazy fucking shit show, man. That was the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen. Have you seen anything more embarrassing than that, Mike?
I've seen very embarrassing things. I made TV for a long time, dude. I think that it's not embarrassing. I think that it's shameful. Right? This shit isn't accidental. If it was accidental again and again and again and again, over and over and over and over, then it would be embarrassing. It's not accidental. It's shameful, disgusting acts again and again and again. They all know it's going to happen. Every single fucking analyst knew that the second the U.S. troops started to pull out, all of the fucking so-called Afghan army would immediately fucking drop their guns and run for the hills. Everyone knew. They want to pretend like, oh yeah, because the Afghan army's not fighting for their country, it's not our fault that it's falling apart.
Well, you know, I want to encourage everybody to fucking criticize, like, in every possible way, at every angle. But, you know, in the end, you know, I'm all for, like, never entering Afghanistan. I'm all for leaving Afghanistan. The biggest betrayal, right? You know, you can, you know, forget all the Saigon helicopters, forget the dudes falling from planes. The biggest thing, hands down, was that this is just another failed Benghazi, Fast and Furious, dude, where they left all the fucking weapons, all the fucking Humvees, all the tanks, the fucking helicopters, and all kinds of shit, you know, like, you know, $1 trillion worth of rifles, you know what I mean, like, whatever the fuck they got, right?
Yeah.
And, like, you know, that was just like, yeah, all right, okay, I knew when Biden was coming in, they were going to refund, you know, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, whatever the hell they're going to call them this time, right, you know? And this is just like, you know, this is their big arms dump, dude. But, like, they always fucking, like with the big, this is very similar to Benghazi, all right? The ambassador there was an arms dealer, right? But he's selling to these people. These people are fucking brutal, violent, fucking not fucking educated savages, all right, man? And they fucking shot their fucking, not their drug dealer, their fucking arms dealer. And like fucking, he could have been selling them arms to this fucking day, right? You know? And like fucking, but they just shot him in, and now they fucking, you know, we gave them this big fucking arms deal. You know, where they can spread that shit all over the fucking region, fucking take them to Europe, shoot up fucking England, whatever the fuck they're going to do with it. And like fucking, dude, they turned on them. You know, this is exactly like fucking Benghazi. Dude, the biggest thing wasn't the leaving, it was the fucking arms deal.
Yeah.
That we gave them. They were $1 trillion of arms.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, dude, this was, you know, this was their idea of success, but like always, they never fucking trust these fuckers, and they always get shot up anyway. And like, so like, because they're like, fuck it, dude, they're living life on the wild side, you know? Fucking heroin farming and shit, you know?
Yeah, well, it seems like this was the plan all along. You know, I mean, it's not like you can fuck up this bad by accident.
Oh, yeah.
In order to fuck up this bad, you got to have a very strategic plan. Trust me.
Dude, I was watching Razor Fist, and he brought it up, and I actually remembered it, but there's so much bullshit, you always forget, right? They changed they stabbed everyone in the back when we backed out of the fucking May, we're leaving fucking deal, you know, which I'm sure pissed people off. And then, like, fucking, they moved the date from fucking May to a more peaceful date of 9/11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They fucking did. They moved the date to 9/11, dude. Like, what the fuck, dude? It's like a fucking joke. It's a
right.
joke, man.
It sets it up to explain why we can't leave Afghanistan now, you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It was just, you know, it was just such a shit show. It couldn't happen to a more illegitimate president. It really is.
The thing for me is I'm just really, really tired of U.S. citizens being called fucking terrorists, man. I'm really fucking tired of this shit. And I'm telling you, the real terrorists are in Washington, D.C. and the mainstream media. The mainstream media spreads more terror around the world than any other group of people. I guarantee that.
Yeah, before that, they officially made it like a big announcement where they had the little list of like if you fucking, you know, think COVID came from China or fucking lab. That's even more insane, you know. And you know, if you believe in the elections need to be fucking investigated, you know, whatever, you're a terrorist, right? But like, that was kind of a little bit old news. They kind of sprinkled that in. Like one of the stories, I think it was the Department of Defense, where they had like their online trolls, their shills, their disinfo agents, you know, they call them something cheesy, like they're cyber warriors or the cyber ninjas or stallions or whatever, something dumb. But like they were going after 5 groups. You know, I can only remember 3 off the top of my head. There were the COVID people, the anti-vax people. They would go into these communities, you know, post stuff to just demoralize, just tell lies, waste people's time, get them doing, you know, following dumb stuff that gets debunked. They did that for, you know, the election people. And then one of the other groups I remembered was they did this for the UFO community as well. You know, and they had an article. They were writing all about it. They were like boasting about, yeah, we're our cyber warriors, and we're real proud of them, you know. These are the literal disinfo agents. These are the people who are allowed to post online, post misinfo. We're literally paying them with our tax dollars to just lie to us. And like, you know, I mean, that's just basically what we have.
Well, it's not just lie to us. It's to rob us. It's to keep us in constant terror and panic and fear. It's to hold us down in this place, which is what the fear is about mostly. The fear is about a couple things. It's to hold us down, keep us afraid from moving forward boldly, but it's also when you're afraid, it kind of like you don't know what to do. So that a lot of people will turn to strong leadership, so it gives you look at people in the Pentagon, you go, what do we do now? So, and that's a big part of, what they call terror. And then again, you have to ask yourself, who does that really work for? Who benefits?
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess, like, just the most disgusting part was just the like I said, the arms deal. It's like, oh, well, look, terrorists are surging, and media's already, trying to convince people to go to war again, just as we're leaving war,
I just can't stand...
Look how bad it is, there's going to be more warfare coming soon,
Yeah, well, no doubt about that.
They're letting you know, they're letting us know right off the bat.
I hear a lot of setting up for some kind of an event that's going to happen. Oh, look at, we're walking away from these people that we had under control, and who knows what's going to happen next. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I mean, like, they're going to pull some sort of false flag just to, end the fucking conversation. Hopefully it'll be a good kind of false flag. Like, maybe they'll show, like, a UFO video or something.
Yeah, I think that if they pull off another one of these big terrorist type events, it will make it a lot easier for them to get people to step in line like they did after September 11th, and all this fucking chatter about, the government's evil, they'll start to, that will turn the people that aren't that way into super patriots, and they'll start pointing out these people, and they'll start sending them to the re-education camps,
Yeah, I mean, maybe they just need, like, a terrorist anti-vaxxer somehow. I don't know how they'll do that, but, I'm sure if they're probably thinking of it,
Yeah.
Anyway, Max, I gotta go. It's late tonight. But
All right.
Great talking to you. It was such a wild weekend. I had to say something.
Yeah. All right. Good to hear from you. I gotta take a quick break can't we all just get a bong? This is what the Mox News live stream is all about. Your wake and bake news at 7 p.m. We're here to say, can't we all just get a bong or a bong rip? If we could all just sit down together and have a big fat bong rip. Thank you, Jackie Cat. And have a discussion. This is what I crave in the world. This is my really only hope for the planet. You can leave the bong hit out if you have to. I think it's a big mistake to leave the bong hit out. I think that if we could all have a bong hit and sit down and have a discussion, then it would be much easier for us to have empathy for people who don't think the way that we do. So I think that's why it's so important to the discussion, just to open up that channel of empathy, which is incredibly important when we're having such an incredibly important discussion as to we have little time to fix the world, and it must be our priority. Otherwise, we're really not much of a species. We can see it coming, and we do nothing. So, except for to continue to make more wars, more fear, more prison cells. I'm going to go heat up my tea while I play this wonderful video for you about Andy Butts. Let me think. The Taliban. Yes, we'll play the video about the Taliban. I think that's a good video, actually. I think all the videos that I play are good. I wouldn't waste your time, okay? We're here to try and make stuff happen. Good things, powerful things. Hopefully, I know I have in the past on this channel and YouTube, and I really hope that we can do something like that with the live stream in the not too distant future. I'm really glad that you're part of it now, and I hope that you will be part of it in the not too distant future also. The telephone number is right there on the screen, 805-669-6397, 805 Mox News, if you'd like to participate now. operators are standing by. I'm going to play this video and heat up my tea, and I will be back momentarily.
Well, the speed of the Taliban's advance has raised many questions about the Afghan military. Bear in mind that since 2001, the US spent $88 billion building, training and funding an Afghan army. We've got these pictures of police officers being trained too. These are NATO forces in Baghlan province. But we know there have been reports of mass surrenders of Afghan security personnel as the Taliban has entered a series of major cities. Some personnel abandoned their posts, others reached agreements with the Taliban to stop fighting and to hand over their weapons and equipment. According to US officials, some provincial governors asked security forces to surrender or escape. Here's the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken.
I have to tell you that the inability of Afghan security forces to defend their country has played a very powerful role in what we've seen over the last few weeks. The fact is, we invested, the international community invested over 20 years, billions of dollars in these forces, 300,000 of them, with an air force, something the Taliban didn't have, with the most modern, sophisticated equipment. And unfortunately, tragically, they have not been able to defend the country. And I think that explains why this has moved as quickly as it's moved.
Well, as we've discussed, officially the US and allies claim to have trained an army that was over 300,000 strong. In reality, there may never have been that many people. We also know many soldiers have died in this conflict. Around 66,000 Afghan troops have died since 2001. And of course, that heavily impacts morale, as well as the capacity of the military. Another huge issue is corruption. For example, we know some police units were keeping dead or absent soldiers on their rosters so that local commanders could pocket their salaries. The New York Times has reported how one important army corps was supposed to have 16,000 personnel, but actually had around half of that. We also know soldiers were poorly paid, sometimes badly fed, and often had a lack of military supplies. For example, in Kandahar recently, we saw fierce fighting, but there were reports that soldiers were only being fed with potatoes and that many had run out of ammunition. Well, the collapse of the security forces started in remote outposts, and we're now able to see a certain pattern developing. There wasn't enough logistical support. Soldiers and police units there were hungry, ran out of ammunition, didn't have the backup they said they needed, and the Taliban surrounded them and promised safe passage if the soldiers surrendered and left behind their equipment. Also, air support from the US-led coalition had been key to protecting these outposts, but now it was lacking. Let's go back several years. My colleague Paul Wood in Afghanistan in 2011 talked about this issue on the front line with Afghan troops.
Police forward position overlooking the village where the Taliban are holding out. There has been some air cover from the Americans, and down below there is a German mine clearance team. But this is almost purely an Afghan fight, and that is exactly what the international community is trying to achieve here.
So for a long time, the success of the Afghan security forces relied on the US and their allies, but the aspiration was always that that wouldn't be the case. The aim was to produce a new army that was self-sufficient, but that was perhaps based on the American military model. That approach has been criticized for perhaps not building on the strengths of Afghan people. And there were also unique issues around recruiting and training. These included high levels of desertion, of trying to maintain an ethnic balance in the force among Afghanistan's tribes, and we know there were many of the recruits couldn't read, which threw up issues around training too. Plus, we have the Obama administration's decision to expand the size of the Afghan security forces from 200,000 to 350,000. That meant recruiting an awful lot of people very quickly, and some of them lacked the basic skills needed to perform the tasks they were being asked to do. And now, much of what remains of all of that equipment that was provided by the US and its allies is no longer in the hands of the Afghan military, it's in the hands of the Taliban. These are military vehicles provided by the Americans being surrendered to the Taliban in the city of Kunduz. That was earlier this month. Let's hear from Rafael Pantucci, who's a security expert at the think tank RUSI.
I think it's quite worrying in the sense that, there's clearly a lot of equipment that the United States and other allies have given the Afghan army to build it up, and the Afghan police and other branches of security forces to make them an effective fighting force against the Taliban. And a lot of that equipment is now going to fall into the hands of the Taliban. And, in terms of making them a much more mobile force, they've now got a whole fleet of various trucks, personnel carriers, jeeps, tanks, other sorts of things that, you can probably maintain and service fairly easily. I think when we get to some of the airplanes and helicopters, it seems as though they've managed to co-opt some Afghan air crews to support these. And there's reports that they've got some pilots in their ranks as well. So maybe one or two of these will be able to, be used for some time. But I think they'll struggle to maintain those. Those are quite sophisticated pieces of equipment that need, a lot of maintenance. And if they don't have someone to actually do that maintenance properly, then it will sort of stop working. The final piece, all the small arms. I mean, unfortunately, Afghanistan's a country that's full of small arms already. And so I think that will only continue. I think the final piece on this one is some of the higher end equipment that maybe, drones, UAVs, that the Taliban maybe will use. But I think in some cases, the concern there is probably these will fall into, American adversaries' hands, or they'll be sold on the open market.
Sometimes life can be a little overwhelming. Sometimes the weight of the world can be too much to bear. Sometimes you need to stop worrying and take a deep breath. Sometimes you need cannabis. Introducing Brightside, high-quality cannabis delivered right to your door. Brightside offers an extensive menu of strains and products to meet your needs. Choose the experience you want, and we'll send you the dankest herb, the real sticky icky, some top-shelf marijuana. If you like what we send you, keep the whole jar. We'll even include some nugs for you to blaze. As part of Discovery, you'll get to try new strains and products. Side effects may include euphoria, increased appetite, uncontrollable giggles, elevated sensitivity to musical dopeness, and reduced anxiety. Tetrahydrocannabinol may also induce feelings of existential well-being and relentless optimism. With a Brightside subscription, you can get it once a month, once a week, or whenever you want, all at a price you'll like. And yes, this is a real company.
Do you know who I am?
You're the wizard.
Ask your doctor if cannabis is right for you. It probably is. Keep it Brightside.
Is cannabis right for you? It probably is. This is what I keep saying. And the reason I play that video every show is because it's spot on. You know, I mean, they show these people afraid in their household, and they have a little cannabis, and the next thing you know, they're playing guitar, and they're outside smelling the roses and looking at all the things that are going on and enjoying your juice box in the park. If we were all to have this giant conversation that I'm talking about, this global conference in which basically everyone who wants to be involved, and I do mean everyone, is somehow involved. And I know with the technology that we have, or very soon with the technology that's coming, we would be able to do that, where everyone would be able to be involved in the conversation. I don't know how it will work out. It's going to take smarter people than me to organize it. All I'm saying is, it would be so cool if everybody could do a bong hit right before the conference started, because it would just be so much more empathy. Wait.
Hello.
Hello?
That video wasn't right on, Mike. That video's not right on.
Which video was that?
The one about existential well-being and enormous optimism.
It's spot on.
Ask your doctor.
It's spot on.
Ask your doctor. Ask your doctor if it's right for you. I don't have to ask my doctor.
Right. Well, some people probably do, and their doctor will probably tell them that it's not the right thing. But that's what makes it. That's what makes it look like all the other medication ads. Right? All the other medication ads are just like that. That's what they're trying to mock.
You're giving up your sovereignty when you gotta ask a doctor.
I don't gotta ask anybody for shit, man.
That's my point, right there, right there. I agree. So, you know, I was looking at you and you're talking about Afghanistan, and I'm thinking to myself, well, Mike could be an imam in Afghanistan. He just needs to change his clothes. He'd fit right in.
You know, I see these people in Afghanistan, right? All these guys, I don't say all these guys, all these people in Afghanistan, and they have long hair, and they have, not long, but it's down to their shoulders, and they have long beards. And I think, see, this is what humans look like. Or at least this is how humans were built to look, right? All these people that claim to be Christians, right? They claim to be Christians, and then instead of glorifying the way God made them to look by growing out their hair and keeping it beautiful and having these beautiful beards that God gave them, they fucking take these goddamn cop haircuts and shave off every bit of their fucking hair and skin off their face, and I don't know how that celebrates God in any way. So you know.
Just think how much food we could store in our beards if we all had beards. We could put fucking a whole lunch in there. Wouldn't even need a backpack. You just put a whole sandwich right in your beard.
Think about how many disposable razors we could save that we don't need to go into the landfill.
I like disposable razors.
Well, you use electric. Don't talk to me like that.
I get a 10-pack of disposable razors, and I get at least 6 shaves out of each cheap-ass razor. That's 10 cents a razor. 10 divided by 6. That's about a little bit more than a penny a shave for me. Including so, yeah,
and then they go in the landfill. Okay, how many hundreds and hundreds of razors could we save from just you?
I melt them down and make religious figures out of them, Mike, and then I sell them in the holy in front of the churches.
Oh, right on. What's your best-selling item?
Mother Mary, Blue Razor, Mother Mary.
Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be. What's that?
I said I'll send you one. It kind of looks like a Sasquatch, but it's beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So I tried to make it look like Mother Mary, but I'm not that good with melted plastic. Yeah. But you know what you're doing every night on your channel?
No.
You're issuing a fatwa. You know what a fatwa is?
Oh, you mean against the government?
Yep, exactly. And bad people in general.
I think they issued it long before I did on the people. They issued the fatwa on the people.
Yeah, fatwa is generally issued by a holy man or an imam, But I always, every time I fart, I figure I'm issuing a fatwa. So, yeah, I mean, the only difference between a holy man or someone who is reputed to be a holy man and somebody else is crowd support. They got some street cred or some reputation.
Wow. Yeah.
Like Joe Biden, he can. Well, we need 100% vaccination in order to cure COVID-19. Just 6 more weeks to flatten the curve. If we get 100%, that's Joe Biden's fatwa. I think he did something stupid recently.
No way.
I don't know what it is because I haven't been watching the news.
Yeah.
But, somebody said he did. Oh, I did see I think it was a senator called for his removal, probably because he's incompetent.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that.
Yeah. Some senator. I don't know.
Is that today? Is that today about the withdrawal or something?
Probably, but I think it went to his general state of mind and his incompetence. I didn't click on the video, but it says Senator calls for. It says Biden should step down, and probably had something to do with Afghanistan. But you remember this girl Malia, like 10 years ago, got shot in the head, right? In Afghanistan.
Yeah, I think so.
Because she went to school and she survived a bullet to the brain.
Oh yeah, that was Pakistan, wasn't it? Or that wasn't?
That was Afghanistan.
No, it was not.
I'm pretty sure it was Afghanistan.
No, it wasn't. It was Pakistan. Go ahead.
Well, you could be right.
I am right. Never forget.
Okay. Are you issuing a fatwa?
I'm just telling you how it is, man.
But Afghanistan is worse than Pakistan when it comes to women's rights and all.
What, now we're going to give a shit about the women in Afghanistan? I mean, when have we had this? You've called this show 200 fucking times, and it's never been like, oh, the poor women of Afghanistan. Now all of a sudden it's important.
No, to tell you the truth, I don't think about Afghanistan much. I thought, I knew it was a big waste of money starting in 2003, and you probably know exactly how much we've spent there in almost 20 years. It's close to $1 trillion, I'll bet. And what a waste of money.
Well, they're on the news. They're quoting $2 trillion, but that's every time they say numbers, instantly in my brain I hear the person as soon as they say the numbers say $2 trillion, as far as you know.
Well, I really respect a guy named Jimmy Dore. I respect him a lot. I bet you know who he is, right, Jimmy Dore?
Yeah, I know the name.
Yeah, well, he's a comedian who's really involved in politics, and I heard him say today, Biden just gave the military another $20 billion, and that we could solve all of American poverty with $10 billion. So that's a very good point. That we could have had the highly developed society with no homelessness, excellent government by the people and for the people, and infrastructure just like 23rd century, but we wasted it all killing brown people in foreign countries. And this is the sin of sins. We're essentially the Roman Empire. We're a 21st century Roman Empire in decline, and Afghanistan apparently has a reputation of being the graveyard of empires. So look at Alexander the Great got fucked up there. Russia got fucked up there. We got fucked up there. We fucked our own country for more than 20 years, starting with 9/11, blaming it on some guy in a cave with a computer or a cell phone, blew up the towers.
And lots of CIA connections.
Yeah, don't talk about the CIA, Mike. So,
fuck the CIA. CIA. The reason I talk about the CIA isn't because I want to go, bad CIA. No, the CIA must be dissolved. Okay, the CIA does nothing good for our country, and it does nothing good for the world. America has to be better than that. What we have these organizations that are just going around fucking with everybody, Fuck that. The CIA has to go. The government even outs their own. These people are called spooks, right? Because nobody's ever supposed to know them or see them. They come and go, and nobody knows. Okay? Fucking during Bush administration, we had What was that woman's name that was outed? Valerie Plame, right? Valerie Plame was outed by Dick Cheney because she was because her husband was who was a journalist and a former ambassador to I can't remember where, and he was saying that he went to wherever God damn it, Saddam was supposed to have got the yellow cake. He went there, yellow cake, uranium. He went there, and he said, yeah, that didn't happen. Saddam didn't get any yellow cake. And then they outed his CIA wife, who was deep undercover in the petroleum industry in Iran. Okay, Iran's this fucking horrible evil that we're all going to get taken out by. And we had a deep undercover agent in the middle of the petroleum industry in Iran, and fucking Cheney outs her.
Yeah, Scooter Libby. And it was Sean Penn who played a pretty good role, and the chick that played Valerie Plame was just hot, and she wasn't no lightweight.
Valerie Plame is fucking hot. I don't know what you're talking about movie-wise. This isn't a fucking movie, people. This is the real deal. Our government, again, is nothing but garbage.
Yeah, agreed. It's really a shame, and in World War II, we had an intelligence service.
Wilson. Wilson was her husband's name. I can't.
Yeah. Charlie Wilson. Yeah.
No.
I think Joe Wilson.
Joe sounds right.
And in World War II, we had an intelligence service that was necessary because we're fighting a war on multiple fronts on a global basis, basically. And that was called the OSS, the Office of Special Services. And as soon as World War II ended, the OSS morphed into the CIA, and then by the time 1960 came around, 15 years later, the CIA were in the media, in the television offices, they were in Congress, they were in the FBI, they were in the State Department. So the CIA has working operatives in multiple, almost every branch of the government. And they are powerful. And that's why they blew up Kennedy's head. That's why the towers came down. That's why.
And a big part of their what they're not supposed to be doing is any operations inside the United States. Meanwhile, what he just said is that in every government office there's CIA, and that's not only like in New York City, they're working directly with the police in New York City and they're not supposed to have any operations in the United States. And I mean, they're doing it out in the open. It's really disgusting.
And they have contracts with private companies like Jeff Bezos, was that the New York Post, or I think that's the New York Post, right? Jeff Bezos?
Yeah. No, the Washington Post.
Washington Post.
Yeah.
And that should be illegal right there. Why shouldn't this octopus intelligence agency be signing contracts and funding corporations in America? It makes those corporations an arm of the intelligence service, and somebody is funding all this disinformation that's been brainwashing people for decades and decades and decades. So that they're so brainwashed, they think, that the Taliban blew up the towers, or the Palestinians blew up the towers. It's like the CIA is the enemy. They should be doing no business, no operations within the continental United States, and they're basically the enemy, and they don't serve the people. So what more do you need to say? It's not funny. It's not a game. It's not pretty. People are dying, and just 4 days ago, I heard somebody say, "Well, we don't have to worry about Kabul because it'll take the Taliban up to 3 months to get to Kabul." 3 days later, they're in Kabul. It's amazing how the insects in when there's a vacuum of power. And
they're not insects, okay? I mean, look at, it's amazing what incredible, I mean, look, that the Pentagon can lie this way, okay? Anything that happens on the ground in Afghanistan, the Pentagon knows, okay? And they want to act like major city after major city after major city didn't fall instantly the second they walked out. So they know exactly what's going to happen, and they just lie about it and then act like so surprised. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's I mean, I really haven't thought much about Afghan people or even Pakistani people, and they're completely different countries. But unfortunately, the Taliban are Sharia type people. That means strict Islamic law, and women do suffer under Sharia law. You can't argue with your husband, can't complain if he beats you, so we weren't protecting anything over there.
You can complain, but it's only going to get you beat worse. That's not funny. I apologize.
That's all right. But, it's, I feel bad. We weren't doing anything good over there. All the money was wasted.
We don't do any good anywhere. All we do is spread death and despair. And I'm so sick of that being our country. That's what our country's known for. You know, I'm tired of having that kind of government. We deserve, the people of the world deserve better, and the people of these United States need to we're the only ones who can legitimately bring this government down. We must rally together to take it back, because right now it's an out of control rogue government that's committing evil in our names everywhere it goes.
And here too, because they're squandering the riches of America, and they've been squandering the riches of America for decades. And now it costs $800 to rent a room, where you could have rented a 5-bedroom house for $800 a couple decades ago. I don't know how people are making it. So America is going downhill, and thanks for fighting for the people, Mike. I'll let somebody else talk, but some other bad people are fucking up America. I don't like to see it. I'm not afraid to look at it, and I'm not afraid to speak out. I'll talk to you later, bro.
Okay, good to hear from you.
Okay, bye.
And that's the whole thing, is that I say again and again, the people of America are great. Our country, the United States, North America, this place is amazing, and it's so brand new. We could have the most brilliant future on the planet, except for our government is pure evil, and it's spending our future, our children's future, their children's future right now, every second of every day, without the slightest hesitation, because they can. How can they? Because one side looks at the other side and says, it's all their fault. And the people go, yeah, it's all their fault. And then the other side looks at that side and says, it's all their fault. And then these people go, yeah, it's all their fault. Instead of realizing 100% this side and this side works together to fuck all you all. Pretty obvious, right? Don't you think? Hello, caller. Hello, caller. Hello, caller.
Hey, bitch, what's up? What happened to your phone screener?
I don't know. What's up with you, bitch?
You're the only bitch here, you Santa Claus looking cunt.
I like that word.
You're gonna cut the cut word? It's nasty, bro.
I like that word. I like that word a lot.
Cut, nigger, 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 nigger.
I don't know why that gives someone so much fucking satisfaction. He felt like, I mean, I could hear in his voice like actual pride or something. You know, like he was accomplishing something. Isn't that sad? Same person. So, in order to make that better, you'll have to call so that we don't have to listen to adolescent little nothings who think blurting out the N-word on live television or internet is accomplishing something. Good one. Good luck with that, man. Because I am telling you, you're going nowhere with that one, bud. Hello, caller. Yeah, I like the cunt word. And I'll tell you why I like the cunt word. Because, besides other reasons. Hello, caller. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to go get Craig. Where were we? Oh, the C word, the cunt word. I like the cunt word. I like calling, you know, people it because, you know, males and females, because it's somewhat shocking. And I don't know if that's why they think it's funny to do it, to do this thing. But I think when you apply it equally to males and females, it's not like this a sexist kind of thing. I'm gonna put this on hold for a minute. Hello, caller. Okay, I'm gonna put that on hold for a minute, and I'll go get a cup of tea here in a sec. I like using that word because, again, I think it's like this kind of universal slur that makes people like, you know, it kind of gets their attention, you know, because they don't hear it a whole lot, I don't think. Now, that being said, my favorite thing about the word cunt is hearing it when a woman is naked and sweaty. And when you hear a woman say that word, cunt, and she's naked and sweaty, that word is a great word. I love hearing that word. Okay, so I'm gonna play a video because I come here to play videos and take fat dabs. Did we do that twice now? We took 2 fat dabs already. Oh my god. And I have another monologue about let's see. I think we're getting low on videos. I have another monologue about Afghanistan. And I thought the last one was pretty good. I really actually thought it was pretty good. That's why I shared it with you. And then this one is interesting. And it's not like as good as the last one, but it's still interesting, so I wanted to share it with you. And I have a couple other videos after that, but I'm going to go heat up my tea. I'll be back momentarily, and we'll try taking phone calls again. Please help. Okay, video number 8 coming right at ya.
Well, the speed of the Taliban's advance has raised many, many questions about the Afghan.
Not that one. Not video number 8. Ah, video number 7. Number 7.
And welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show on Newsmax. As if the faltering economy weren't enough, as if the multiple crises on the southern border weren't enough, as if the massive, unaccountable, childlike spending spree weren't enough proof. The embarrassing, calamitous, outright disgraceful pullout of Afghanistan has confirmed something that never-Trumpers, socialist voters, and the biased press have been trying to hide for over a year now. The incompetence of Joe Biden and all who are acting in his name. Another Saigon confirms America is run by a boob who's run by know-nothings. That's the sobering truth we confront in tonight's preamble. Afghanistan has fallen to the Taliban terrorists. Again, it took Biden 2 weeks to destroy what the American taxpayers and our troops built in 21 years. All of the deaths, all of the sacrifice, the trillions of dollars wasted. Now Afghanistan will once again be a safe haven where terrorists can train and launch attacks against the West and the United States, just like they did on 9/11. And speaking of 9/11, many Americans had flashbacks of our citizens leaping to their deaths out of tall buildings in New York as they watched desperate Afghans who clinged to the outside of American transport aircraft plummet to their death thousands of feet in the air. They would risk the certain death of clinging to the outside of an American jet rather than face the brutal death that awaited them at the hands of a terrorist Taliban. Now, many of us thought we'd never meet anyone as vapid, vacuous, and completely moronic as Joe Biden when it came to foreign policy. Well, it seems we were wrong. Biden has surrounded himself with graduates of the Joe Biden School of Foreign Policy. Some of the most inept and incompetent buffoons now advise the occupier of the Oval Office. But it is our sincere belief that these people are not merely giving suggestions to Joe Biden. Because of Biden's advanced loss of cognitive ability, it is my belief that these millennials who were raised in the government-run schools to hate America are now crafting and implementing America's disastrous foreigners-first domestic and foreign policy. According to Team Biden and their enablers in the press, what we're seeing unfold in Afghanistan is all part of the plan. And everything Biden can't get away with claiming is perfectly normal, he's trying to blame on the 45th president, Donald Trump. Upon hearing this, most Americans gave a collective eye roll, finding the claim absurd on its face, like Trump's plan on the U.S. border. According to Team Trump, Biden threw away Trump's plan in Afghanistan, too, trusting the aforementioned know-nothing millennials to craft our deranged exit out of Afghanistan instead. But the absurdity of blaming Trump didn't stop Biden and some in the press from trying to blame Trump for another colossal Biden screw-up. Here's Fox News Sunday's Chris Wallace adopting the Biden administration's talking points to ask truly outlandish and juvenile questions of Trump's former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo.
Critics say that for the U.S. to cut a deal with the Taliban without the Afghan government even in the room was hugely demoralizing and led inevitably to where we are today. I just want to ask you one more question about your record, though, sir. You were the first American Secretary of State to ever meet with the Taliban, and you talked about how they had agreed to join us in the fight against terrorism. Here you are, sir. Do you regret giving the Taliban that legitimacy? Do you regret pressing the Afghan government to release 5,000 prisoners, which they did, some of whom are now back on the battlefield fighting with the Taliban?
Okay. Let me break down what Chris Wallace just did. In an effort to claim his question was formulated from Trump critics and not his own personal disdain for anything Donald Trump, Mr. Wallace said, Mr. Pompeo, you and President Trump have said the sky is blue, but your critics contend that the sky is red. And I, Chris Wallace, the face of Fox News, in an effort to feign journalistic integrity, will adopt the absurd premise that the sky is red in an effort to shift accountability from the lovable nitwit Joe Biden and place blame where I think it belongs, on President Trump. Forgive those of us who are sane, Mr. Wallace, but I don't think it's right to abandon reality in an effort to protect an administration that's clearly deserving of blame. We here on the Chris Salcedo Show don't believe that Democrats are destined to rule over us. They are not entitled to be congratulated when they didn't earn it, and they shouldn't escape blame and have it diverted to others when they deserve it. But not every media outlet was trying to shift blame to President Trump. Proving a stopped watch is right twice a day, CNN's Jake Tapper confronted Biden's feckless Secretary of State with a big dose of reality.
President Obama's former ambassador to Afghanistan, Ryan Crocker, he called the way this was done, quote, a handover to the Taliban, and, quote, we have hung them out to dry about the Afghan people. Crocker continued, quote, I'm left with some grave questions in my mind about Biden's ability to lead our nation as commander-in-chief, to have read this so wrong, or even worse, to have understood what was likely to happen and not care, unquote. Does President Biden not bear the blame for this disastrous exit from Afghanistan?
But Tapper wasn't done here. Mr. Tapper put the proper historical context in what we're seeing, what we're all witnessing. The Vietnam War started and escalated under Democrat presidents, but Nixon, a Republican, pulled out, culminating with the fall of Saigon. In Afghanistan, a war started by Bush, a Republican. Biden, too, is getting out in the most irresponsible and deadly manner.
But with this troop surge to airlift Americans out of Afghanistan, aren't we already in the midst of a Saigon moment?
No, we're not. Remember, this is not Saigon.
Which means, yes, it is. This is just like Saigon, because we all know that if a socialist's lips are moving, they're lying. It's one thing when leftists lie to set a political narrative, trample on our rights, or try to escape culpability under the law. But this is the definition of life and death. Political spin only undermines faith and credibility in those like Blinken who are peeing on your feet and telling you it's raining. Oh, by the way, note to Fox News Sunday host Chris Wallace. If CNN can ask hard-hitting questions of a Democrat that are based on reality and not political wishful thinking, and you can't, you're doing it wrong. Who'd have thought we'd see a day when CNN had more credibility than the face of Fox News, Chris Wallace? But that's the world we're living in. Liberals claim they don't have to follow the law, whether it be on the border, Antifa, BLM riots, or prohibitions on mask and vaccine mandates. And because biased members of the press are playing for the Socialist Democrat team and not Team America, we're being told that anything bad that happens as a result of left-wing policies is actually the fault of an administration who hasn't been in power nearly 8 months. The sad thing is, we don't live in a fantasy world. Biden's Saigon moment will have lasting repercussions. Not only will it have a demoralizing impact on our people and military for years to come. Consider this. The terrorist Taliban has been freeing al-Qaeda prisoners as it reconquers Afghanistan. Soon, Afghanistan will become a net exporter of radicalized Islamic fundamentalist terrorism again. Currently, our southern border is wide open, thank you, Mr. Biden. Currently, our allies are warning that terrorists are infiltrating America using the chaos at our border as cover. How long will it be before Afghanistan's Taliban sends terrorists to enter the United States, taking advantage of Biden's open borders and killing our people once again as they did on 9/11? We may all come to regret Biden the boob and his Saigon moment.
Biden the boob and his Saigon moment. I thought the other guy's monologue was better, but this guy puts a lot of I don't know. He's oh, by the way, brownies. He's one of these guys. He's one of these huckster guys who sees an audience that he knows he can tap into. And this is how people make their money, right? On politics, this is how they do it, on politics. And this is why I keep telling you about the politicians. There isn't a left, there isn't a right. As far as the politician goes, the media goes, it's just a pretend thing. Because there's this audience there that considers themselves to be on the right or on the left. And what you want most of all is to be able, if you have a television, if you are a politician, I mean, if you own a television station, you make TV, what you want most, you are a politician, what you want most of all is to be able to tap into an audience, right? The bigger the audience, the better. Over here you have the left, the right, left, right. Over here you have the left, and and people completely identify that way. a huge part of them. And it's so easy to put them at odds. So this side again, excuse me, this side points at them, that side points at them, and they go, yeah, those guys, no. And the other side goes, yeah, those guys. And they're just talking about each other. And meanwhile, these guys, the politicians on the so-called right, are pointing the finger at the politicians on the so-called left, saying it's all their fault. And these guys are saying it's all their fault. And meanwhile, they say, oh, well, we got together and reached around across the aisle, across the aisle and compromised so that we could get the bill passed, right? They compromised. When they say they compromised, what they mean is they sold you out one way or another. They say, oh, we're fighting for this. And they say, oh, we're fighting for this. And then they say, oh, we reached across the aisle to compromise. And that means they compromised you and your future and your children. So, and they wasn't, it's not like they're at odds. They're really not reaching a compromise. It's all theater, you know, in which they're going, appealing to this side and appealing to that side. So, and the media does the same thing. And you notice when it comes to war like this endless fucking 20-year war, there's nobody in the media that's going, look, we have to pull out. You know, I mean, we can't just keep doing this forever. You know, it's never going to get better with us there. Basically, we broke it, and now the Taliban has to come in and try and fix it, because there isn't going to be anybody else there. The government is a joke. The military is a joke. So they got to have somebody to run stuff. You know, this government is horrible. And again, I think our country is a great country filled with amazing people, and that we, the people of these United States, deserve so much more of a government that makes good things happen in the world. Excuse me while I whip this out. And the only way we're ever going to get that is to recognize there is no left and there is no right. It's completely pretend. It's complete and utter theater. And because when it comes to this kind of stuff, you don't hear anybody going, oh, you know, oh, this is such a good thing that we're pulling out of war, that we're finally ending war. They're going, oh, look at what a huge mistake this is. Everybody, across the aisle, everywhere. And it's always going to be incredibly horrific to try and pull out of that country, or any country where we've been embedded for 20 years. It's going to be horrible. And we know that when we go in. Now, I'm sorry, not we, but our fucked up government and our fucked up Pentagon, who could have gone into Afghanistan, killed all the terrorists in 2 years and pulled the fuck out. But no, we had to stay there to guard the poppy fields and the lithium mines. Because China needs fucking lithium to make your goddamn phones, don't they? This is the way the world works, people. And we need a flood of opium in the streets of America and around the world, because it's easy cash money by the palletful. And this is the way the world works, people. This is the way your military works. This is the way your government works. And then when we get those people strung out on the opium and the heroin and the fentanyl, we send them to jail. And we make money off them that way too. Legal money, which isn't as nice as the dark money. But it'll have to do. It makes us look legit. So I see, and that's the way I see our government 110%. And if I'm wrong, I'd really love to talk to someone about it, because I wish I wasn't wrong. I wish I could look at our government like it is an amazing an amazing machine that makes awesome shit happen in the world, like, you know, ends hunger and helps make sure that there's fresh drinking water everywhere, which is, these things are, I mean, come on, this is the 21st century. These things should be easily accomplished if they are our priority in the world. Right? So the question is, why are our priorities so screwed up? Right? Why can't we get a government that wants to make good things happen in the world? You know, like I said, I don't want it to be this way. I don't want to be criticizing the government. I want to be talking about how America's the greatest government in the world. Freedom! I mean, trust me, if I felt for 1 second there was anybody in Washington, D.C. truly fighting for the freedom of the people of these United States, if I thought for 1 second, I would have like second thoughts about ever saying anything bad about the government. But there's no one that gives me that hope. There's no one that makes me believe that anyone is fighting for your freedom in Washington, D.C. It's all about locking it down. It's all about all your personal information bought and sold. It's really, really so not the land of the free. And the only way we fix that is by coming together. And I think it's fixable. I'm not one of these people who is negative. I'm not a negative person. And no matter how much I don't want to, I despise our government. I despise the Pentagon. I despise the CIA, the FBI. No matter how much I despise them, I'm not going to be a negative person, because it is so much easier to go through life with a smile on your face and a song in your heart. And I like setting it on cruise control, just listening to the music with a big smile on my face. So, and I have that plan down pretty good. So I'm not wanting to be, somehow, and I don't want to spread the negativity either. You know what I mean? I don't want to make other people feel like, like they got this, thing that they can never let, nagging fucking thing. I don't look at it like that. I don't look at the government being evil, the government killing 1 million people in our names with our tax dollars, making our completely based on lies, making our people, the fine people of these United States, looking somehow like evildoers in the world. 1 million innocent Iraqis in your name for your children's safety. Which is completely untrue. It's not for your children's safety. It's to assure that in your children's adult life there will be plenty of terrorists that make it so that people in the Pentagon and the CIA and the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security are completely indispensable, and even more so, more needed than ever in the history of this country. I believe those are the #1 goals of the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. not some bullshit about outing the terrorist. It's 100% about creating terrorists. Isn't it, Pentagon? Isn't it, CIA? 100% these wars have been about creating terrorists. And now, thanks to the Pentagon, short-sightedness, it's not their fault. They just do what the commander-in-chief says. So if he says move out, then of course we leave $1 trillion worth of weapons behind. People that are angry enough to go out and want revenge, even if it's halfway around the world. $1 trillion worth of weapons to do it. Now, what could possibly go wrong? Thank you, Jackie Cat. You're such a wonderful human being. Before I forget, let's see. So where were we? All I want is a brighter future for your children. Okay, I don't have children. None of this is gonna affect me. I'm not long for this world, as I've said many times. And that's fine. That's not about to take the smile off my face. It almost makes it bigger. It's funny because it's true. I don't want to leave this giant mess. I want to at least try and push it the right direction. Whatever I can do, because the people coming behind us have a horrible, horrible mess to try and sort out. And I just couldn't blame them if they're not up for the job, because it's our evil government that programmed them so that probably they won't be up for the job. So I do what I do. Hopefully, and always on the Mox News, always on the YouTube from day one. It's always been about trying to start a discussion. And we've started many, many discussions. Speaking of which, this is a call-in show, and the lines are open. So if you'd like to call and have a discussion about maybe how this government is not evil, or the other way around, I'll give you both options. I would really like to see it as not evil. I really would. And that's partially why I would fight to try and bring awareness, is because the more awareness there is, the better chance that we could make something happen to turn the government around from this place of evil to actually making good things happen in the world, in your name, with your tax dollars, giving your children a better world to live in tomorrow. That seems really simple, basic information. And I don't know how that can be lost on people. No matter what, we should be making the world a better place for everyone. Everyone that we can make it a better place for. We have, our country alone on the earth has the potential to do that. China's kind of stepping that direction. We'll have to see where it goes with them. But they seem to be trying to make the world more accessible. I'm not sure, but it's interesting the direction that they're headed with worldwide infrastructure. So, where were we? Why doesn't the United States, our government, make good things happen in the world when it could? Instead of, they keep talking about how we didn't go to Afghanistan to nation build, right? We didn't go to Afghanistan to nation build. Well, what if we did go to Afghanistan to nation build? What if we sent in the most brilliant minds we have to offer, and they went in and they said, they said, okay, here's what we do, right? We flood Afghanistan with money, right? We go and we start building shopping malls, or we find out what they want to do, what they want to build, how they want their world to be, and then we help them make that happen, and then we expand on it, and we expand on it, and we don't be threatened by people like the Taliban. In the meantime, we kick the Al-Qaeda's ass, who the Taliban really had nothing to do with. So we go in, we don't act like, oh, you can't live your lives this way. We go in and we say, hey, we'd like to help you have better lives. How can we do that? Right? Oh, we need running water. Running water would be awesome. In the 21st century, running water would be awesome, wouldn't it? And all these basic things. We went in there and we actually did these kind of basic things. Those people would love us, and they wouldn't have this anger and this chip on their shoulder and this pain and despair everywhere. Because that's what we did. Instead of going in there with what, $100 billion, right? We took $2 trillion, as far as you know. That's what we're being quoted. We took $2 trillion, as far as you know, to, what? Spread death and despair. That's what we did. We spread death and despair. Okay? And then it's all wasted. Just gets worse. We look like freaking clowns. Again, not the people of the United States. Well, hopefully not the people of the United States, but the people in the Pentagon look like complete and entire fuck-ups. The people in Congress, the people in the White House, all of them, complete and utter fuck-ups. And it looks like it's never going to change unless we can come together, because we want to make good things happen in the world. I want our country, our government, to make good things happen in the world. I really do. And in our own country, that's part of the world. I'm not just saying in Africa or in Iraq, but it would be so easy to do that instead of spending, to go in with $100 billion and say, how can we help you have better lives? So easy. But that's not the way we do things. We could do it the easy way or the $2 trillion hard way. And of course, we're going to pick the $2 trillion hard way because all the people in the upper echelons make massive amounts of money out of those $2 trillion, don't you know? And that's really fucked up. That the reason we have a 20-year war is because some elite cunts are making massive amounts of money. That's why. That's why we have a 20-year war. And I am really, really, I just want us to do good things in the world, man. Because it seems like that should be an option. Right? We should have the option of whether we're going to do evil in the world or whether we're going to make really cool shit happen. And I don't see our government making really cool shit happen. Oh, we're doing a trip to Mars. We're sending a dune buggy to Mars. I question whether you are or not. Our government has been full of shit forever. And I really question if they're sending anything to Mars, And honestly, what I'd like to see is them send something to fucking the moon. That's what I'd really like to see.
And I don't see our government making really cool.
Hello, caller.
Hello. Hey, how's it going there, man?
Okay, how about you?
Well, I'm just here to spread the word of Jesus Christ and to let you know that democracies always die, some faster than others, but that's what happens, man. They don't survive.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Okay.
How long is your beard?
I have a beard. It's getting long. It could get long, but it's not quite there yet.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. I find it really strange when people claim to be followers of God, and God made us in this shape, with beards and hair, and they shave it all off day after day. It's almost like they're ashamed of the way God made them,
I used to think that way. I used to follow Mosaic law, but I have recently, within the last 6 months to a year, been convinced of just following the new covenant that Christ brought, and ultimately, maybe it's not necessary to get saved to keep a beard. It seems kind of larpy, if you ask me. I think it's just about following Christ, my man. Jesus Christ saves.
I think that you can think whatever you want. It's a free country. Do you think that that God gives you the power to say, do you think God believes in freedom?
No, I actually did. Well, on some level, but not democracy. Democracy isn't really freedom.
That's not what I asked. Do you think God believes in freedom? Wants you to act as however you choose?
No, I think it's a hard question, but we have the 10 Commandments that we're commanded to follow, and now at this point we have to accept Christ or we will be thrown into the gnashing of teeth and weeping outside of the kingdom. So, no,
okay, but so let's take it from there. Do you think that an all-loving God would do that to people, give them the eternal weeping, if it was, if God was all-loving and could understand that God's own creation was actually fallible, which makes it God's fault? So instead of God punishing God's fallible creation, I don't like to call God he, it seems disrespectful. Then, what kind of a God is that would punish God's own fallible creation when it's God's fault after all? Because
it's the God that spoke to the tribes of Israel in the Old Testament, and God is most certainly a man. We are made in the image of God, we are made in the image of men.
That's ridiculous.
And, you're not saying anything from the Bible. You're just taking your opinion, and you're trying
I'm using basic logic. I use basic logic.
No, I'm actually, that's funny you say basic logic, because I actually majored in philosophy, and I hate symbolic logic and reasoning. So, can you name the 4 arguments, the 4 valid argumentation forms? I can.
Okay, well, good for you. We're having a conversation.
Logic, but it has nothing to do with logic.
Of course it does. Of course it does.
The tribes of Israel in the Old Testament. So you don't really know what you're talking about. You're saying this liberal horse shit like God is a woman. You're just some lark.
I didn't say that. I didn't say it. I think.
But you want God to be a woman.
I didn't say that. I said to identify God as He is disrespectful. I believe to identify God as He is disrespectful. I also believe that if you were to identify God as she, it would also be disrespectful. I think it's so monumentally small-minded that you have to put God into the shape of something that you'll understand. Is fucking pathetic that you believe something like that.
You're not reading the Bible.
Fuck the Bible.
Well, there you go. You don't believe in the Bible.
No, fuck the Bible. The Bible was written by men who wanted to hold people down. Not by people who genuinely love God. People who genuinely love God would never turn that God into something to be afraid of. Does that make sense to you at all?
Want you to have a beard? Is that all you care about? Is you have a beard?
No, I care that God is loving, and you turn it into something to be afraid of. What's that?
Should women have beards too? I mean, if God's not a man or a woman, should women have beards?
I'm talking about, well, kind of. I'm talking about God, the God that created you. God created, that's what you believe, right?
Yeah.
And God created you with a beard, didn't God?
His word.
What?
His word is in the Bible, 10 Commandments.
Whatever.
That's God, man.
No, it's not. That's man. If you believe that God created you, you don't need some fucking text telling you how you're supposed to live. Because you know God gave you the fucking freedom if you have basic logic. God gave you the fucking freedom because God wanted you to use your fucking freedom. Figure it out, man. Basic fucking logic.
It doesn't make your argument.
Basic fucking logic.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. God wants you to be free. How stupid are you? God wants you to be free. Oh, this book written by men is God's word. How fucking stupid are you?
If books don't contain knowledge, how can we know anything?
I didn't say they don't contain knowledge. I said it wasn't written by God. Try and keep up, okay?
Just burn all the books, right?
What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, you're saying it was written by men. I mean, they got to write it down, right? A man has to write it down. It's the word of God, but a man wrote it down.
No. What needs to happen is you need to actually believe in God, which clearly you do not.
I do.
No, you don't. You think God is something to be feared. You think God is something to be feared. You think God is something so fucking simple that you can put it in this block that God is a he. Fuck you! You don't have any respect for God, and you're delusional if you think you do.
You think God's a man-woman who wants us to have beards, and you're really mad about it for some reason.
No. I think God made us this way. And in your Bible that you love so much, it says that God made you in God's image. And you know what you do? You know what 99% of people do? Is they shave their fucking 99% of the people who claim Christian, whatever.
Take whatever you want to.
Yes, hello caller.
Good evening. Am I speaking with you, Marks?
Yes, you are.
This is PsyOps.
What's up, Jay?
How are you? I was just listening to you. Are you live on the air? You were just arguing with someone? Is that what was happening?
Yeah, he's some fool who doesn't understand God and claims to be Christian.
Yes. I completely understand you, and I wanted to try and maybe talk about that. His malfunction.
Uh-huh. Go ahead.
So I've been trying to study things a lot over the years, and we've spoken a few times, and I've missed out on some of your shows lately. So to get to the kind of point there, I got a different interpretation in my studies, and I studied religion very, very intensely. And I don't like being proven wrong, and I don't like losing the bet. And so I've battled trolls for like 17 years on YouTube and other places on the internet, and there aren't many that can defeat me. And I've collected all the arguments. I was trying to turn the volume down, adjust things, make a call. He was lipping off about he's got some argument styles and all kinds of stuff. I don't know what he's talking about, because I got that kind of stuff and more. I know about logical fallacies and fallacious arguments, and I don't know if he knows about those things. And since my name is PsyOps Agent, I had to learn about counterintelligence tactics and psychological operations and mentalist manipulations from people like Darren Brown from the UK, who's a magician, illusionist, mentalist. And so I went all the way back. I was listening to a Jewish rabbi talk about the origins of Judaism and how he had to go all the way to Tibet or something to meet a guy on the top of a mountain, and it turned out he was another Jewish gentleman that had converted to whatever, Krishnaism or something. And they told a story about how thousands of years ago there were apparently 3 million witnesses to something to do with Krishna. And in my studies with, I call it devil's contract trickery, the 3 million witness thing, they were witnesses to Brahma and Krishna and stuff. And to me, if you take the A off the end of Brahma and throw it on the front, you get Abram. And if you take the Swati off the end of Brahma's wife, Saraswati, you got Sarah. And if you got somebody that did a mirror image perverted version of something and tried to turn it into a contract trickery scam, and they fixed that loophole from the first 3 million witnesses to Krishna, and then made a claim that Moses had 3 million witnesses to him and some other stuff, but they fixed that. I don't know what it is right now. I'd have to go watch the video to pick out the little point that he made about the mistake in the witness thing. So one didn't have a chain of events that could be tied together, and now the other one has the chain of the bloodline or the passing it on or something to make it sound like it's legit. But then you go further back with Brahma, and you got Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, who are the generator, the maintainer, and the destroyer. The creator, the maintainer, and the destroyer, or the generative force, the ordinative force, and the destructive force. I wear Superman shirts because the blue is the generative, the yellow is the ordinative or the maintainer, and the red is the destructive. G-O-D. I wear his God on my shirt, and the guy's name wasn't Jesus, it was Yeshua or something like that, and that translates to Joshua. So if I was Jesus, I'm 50-something years old, but if I was Jesus, I've been saying this since I was like 19. I'd come back and punch everybody in the face and say, you didn't get my fucking name right.
Well,
and if you're going to be serving me, you should also serve something else. The thing with religious people...
let me just say, if I was Jesus, I'd be getting so much fucking trim right now. You have no idea. Go ahead.
So I also learned, because if you have some kind of religious inclinations, you might think that things like the Satanic Bible or like occult books or stuff are like really scary and you shouldn't read it because it might pervert your mind. Well, guess what? There's something in, like, I don't know, G.I. Joe, knowing is half the battle, or know thy enemy. So I studied their stuff, and apparently back in ancient Rome, some pervert guy there with Constantine, look at that, yes, I like the comment. Anyway, some guy there with Constantine, I made a story up like the mafia back then, they decided to turn the idea of a sundial, 13 sticks. The main stick is a sun marker, and the 12 sticks surrounding it are the disc eye poles, or the posts of El, the god of light, who's the god of the Bible, that the supposed religious person doesn't know. And if you Google Bibliothek, you would find out that it says the ancient Greeks considered the Bible an allegorical book on the movements of the sun. And his Jesus said, I speak an allegory for ears to hear and eyes that see. And apparently he isn't one of those people, or he hasn't looked deep enough. And so, I don't know, I got all kinds of stuff I could keep talking about. So the 12 disciples and the 12 apostles...
Are you from Canada?
12 sticks. Yeah.
I can tell by the way you say a boot. A boot?
Oh, crap. Crap. I wish I got to say that different now. Maybe I've been watching some other programs and stuff, whatever. But yeah, about. Yeah.
I pay attention.
Cool. And I totally try to stay away from saying A. I always say, huh? or something.
I like that.
So, I think that Christianity is based on a sundial. And also the religion is stolen from Brahma and Shiva and or whatever, all that. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. And I don't
right, look. All I'm saying is that if you have to paint God into this position of God being a him or a her, that seems like way oversimplifying things into this being, this beyond anyone's comprehension. You know, we're these little tiny fucking ants looking at the universe and going, oh, I get it. It's a he. Okay, the universe is a he. Come on, man. What kind of fucking... This is basic logic that I'm talking about. Now, saying that, what I was trying to get across before was that, God wants you to be free. That's why God gave you this ability to do almost anything you can imagine on this amazing paradise. Okay?
Yes.
That's what God gave you. Now, as I was saying, and religion, the big part of religion that shows me that they don't have respect for God, don't love God, exactly the opposite of what they say, because they try and take that freedom away, just like our government, who claims to protect your freedom, and they try and take the freedom away. Not only do they try, they do. One other thing about the whole God and basic logic is, again, this argument of why would a loving, intelligent being punish its own fallible creation? I mean, it's not really our fault. If you believe in a creation kind of story, it's not really our fault if we fuck up. It's God's fault. God fucked up, not me. God fucked up, not me.
That's right, yeah. And I wanted to say there is that what you were talking about there just now, a bit of it is part of the plan, I suppose, when I read from some of the occult books, is that in the ancient law, the bad guys are actually justified. They're giving legal notice in an allegorical form, and then they're making people profane and guilty in a way, but on purpose, but over a slow process, and then it justifies later when they wipe them out. That's what they think, right? Okay. And I'm saying that this part of this stuff, maybe religion, maybe something else, but I know that I got the language code thing and the word universe. And apparently, according to the Hebrews or Israelites, where that's supposed to be the chosen and everybody loves them and that. So according to their own stuff, because I call it a rabbi, it's the universe is one verse. The word universe means one phrase. And the one phrase, according to the Hebrew religion, is Yaheh-Vaheh, which is I am the existing one because I am the one that exists. And that is the universe El. El is the god of light. His wife was apparently Asherah, and that was all removed in the burning of the Asherah poles and all that, go around knocking them down. And the word Bib El means book of El, and I consider El just to be the study of optics or the study of light, right? And so I say that somebody used this kind of, with the code system that I learned for the Superman shirts when I make jokes about it or something, is that England set up a trap in the language around the 14th century. And having the access to this language code that has knowledge embedded into it made them look like they had divine knowledge or superpowers. That's why I wear the Superman shirt, because encryption is kryptonite. And when you rearrange the letters in kryptonite, you get the word encryption. You change the T to an N, and it works, don't worry. I can explain the details if somebody wants to be a heckler. And so you change the T to an N, it becomes encryption. The moral of the story is that when you encrypt something and keep the knowledge to yourself, it makes other people under the effect of the encryption weaker or under the effect of the kryptonite, and it makes you look like the kryptonite's been removed and you have superpowers of divine authority. And so when the United States escaped, they didn't know they brought over the language. They didn't know they brought over the Church of England. They didn't know they brought over the trade contracts that was set up by the contract trickery bullshit with the lawyers that weren't allowed to be lawyers, but they're supposed to be attorneys or whatever in the United States because they're not allowed to have titles and stuff. Because that's why they didn't want the fucking lawyers there. What do you lawyers and scribes? It says there, buddy, that guy, the religious guy that was bitching at you, and I'm trying to put him in his fucking place. I didn't like him talking to you like that. My apologies.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I appreciate it. I just I can't follow it. I understand the lines that you're talking about, all the mythology and such. I actually love all that. In this kind of discussion, though, for me, it all just boils down to basic logic. Again, how could how could a God, a loving God, treat its own fallible creation in such a horrific way as to cast it into never-ending pain, right?
Exactly.
How could a God do that? This loving, its own fallible creation, meaning I'm the one who fucked up when I created you. Yeah. So
tell this guy to study nature in the insect world, in the world of reptiles. It's ruthless. It's sick. It's demented. It's the most perverted stuff you could ever imagine. I was watching a comedian talk about prawns eat their babies. There's insects that,
you gotta eat something. Hey, you gotta eat something, man.
Yeah, I know you gotta eat something, but you can't. It's like the idea that a god made those things to do that most horrific shit you could ever imagine, right? And that's the kind of stuff I'm just reflecting what you're saying there. And I understand what you're talking about, and that's the point of why I tried to generally shut up over a while. I hope the fucking world doesn't blow up before I get my project done, where it's the Primates, Remedially Intricate Manual of Ape Training and Education, because over the years I've learned that I've become knowledgeable about this subject, and you know bits about it, and then to throw it all at you at once, it's like throwing buckets of water, and it's kind of too much. So I'm trying to make a project and write my book or make my video or whatever, where I slowly slowly introduce over segments all of this information so that people can process it. And I've already spent time dealing with the hecklers and the trolls. So I have every counter argument prepped.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of research.
Yeah.
You know, so
well, you can do it.
While I'm trying hard.
You can do it.
Trying hard.
Yeah. No. Don't try. Just do it. I mean, as Yoda said, there is no try. There is either do or do not. You know. So you love the mythology. There's Yoda. Either do or do not. There is no try. Either do or do not. Hey, thanks a lot for calling. It's good to hear from you, Psyops.
Honor to you, brother.
Okay. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
You too. And look at this is the basic way that I see God. Not that this discussion is about God, but it's just so simple. I'm a simple guy. I use basic logic, and it seems like to me to paint God in this image of like a man or a woman seems so small and disrespectful. You know, it's like we're, a speck that is completely dead and knows nothing and that lives on an ant, or that an ant walks across, and somehow we can perceive that little speck of sand, of nothing, that grain, that tiny little amoeba can somehow perceive what God is so much that I can define its sex. I can define God's sex clearly as a male. Why can't you people see this? There's a big old schlong hanging down right there. I mean a fucking, a God-sized schlong, people, right down to the ankle. How could you miss it? Because God's got to have a giant schlong, right? I mean, how else could you be God? Can't feel somehow inferior in that way, It's so fucking small-minded to think somehow, and then you go and you have this basic fucking knowledge, right? Of that God is this fucking unimaginable being that created everything. But and you don't see that as disrespectful. But no, I know God so well that I know God's sex. I know that God is a male. Oh, man. Come on, you're smarter than that. Don't be sheep. I'm sure it says that in the Bible somewhere. Or I'll bet you Jesus said that. Don't be sheep. I'll bet you Jesus said something just like that. Hello, caller.
Yeah, hi, this is Brian Rizzo.
What's up, G?
Do you know anything about Genesis 3:16?
I don't know if I do or not. I may.
It says,
a...
You're poor. Fuck you, dude.
Yeah. Okay. Because what? God does have a giant schlong? I don't understand. We're going to have to do with God. We're going to have to do a show on God now. Oh, I look forward to that. Ooh. And, of course, the question is simple. Is God all-loving or not? Is God all-knowing or not? Because if God is all-knowing, then, and God wanted you to behave in exactly this way, why would God give you this freedom? I mean, I understand why. If there is a creator God, I talk about it all the time. Because in order for this species to evolve to its maximum level, it will take as many of us as possible living a life that's as free as possible in order to reach our full potential and make amazing things happen in the world. Hello, caller. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hey, what's going on?
Nothing. What's going on with you?
Well, I started watching your show back when I was
they were streaming all the Hong Kong shit, and it's been a lot on my path of education since then, as far as learning about just how fucked our government is.
It's really unfortunate that we can't do good things in the world, man.
No, you know, and everyone, we're all, but here's the thing, this is what I'm saying. The narrative is being broken. It's like a dam. Like, you know, once the dam busts and everyone, just the plausible deniability is gone about this country being founded on slavery and the wealthy class being created and then all that wealth passed down, and then everyone else has just been slaves to the system, which is just wealthy people ever since then. But being able to articulate it is different, you know, when you talk about the Federal Reserve and how they print money out of nothing and nowhere. You know, I couldn't tell you that a year ago. But Corona, the pandemic, has given us all a chance to kind of sit down and, you know.
Well, the world has gone to this crazy place, and the worst part of it is that they have people so afraid that you know, if somebody like breathes on them at the grocery store, they might die. You know, so they're you know, before it was, oh, we got to be afraid of the Russians and the Chinese because they have nuclear weapons, and then it was, oh, we got to be afraid of, you know, I don't know, the Middle Eastern people because they're crazy. And, you know, then then it was, oh, the terrorists are here in our country and we have to be afraid of these foreign terrorists. And now it's fucking, you know, and then it was, oh, the domestic terrorists are everywhere and we have to be on constantly guard. And now it's the coronavirus is going to kill us all. And it's just all these things.
And officer safety, of course.
Go ahead.
Civil liberties.
Yeah, oh, right.
Fucking, like, you know, it's crazy. Like, once people realize that if money, like, you know, we always talk about the problems, but there's actually the solution, and that's kind of what I want to talk about. We need to all get together as the general working class and stop circulating the U.S. dollar. That's right there will take away all the power the wealthy have over us.
Yeah.
How can the wealthy pay for the police, the security, and all of this if their dollar isn't worth anything? All those trillions in those bank accounts is like Zimbabwe dollars. No disrespect to my African brothers.
Yeah, I think that would hurt a lot of people. I think what we really need to do is, if we could come together, like you're saying, is to tell, you know, to sit down. You know, people say, how are we going to fight the government? You know, I said, we don't have to fight the government. All we have to do is sit down, stay at home, watch TV, and not buy stuff. Don't buy a single thing from Amazon.
That's exactly
just
what
get,
I'm saying.
yeah. Well,
Exactly.
you know, you said we switched to electronic. You said we don't use dollars anymore. We can't crash the dollar.
So
we don't
you
buy
gotta
anything.
Stop circulating the U.S. economy. That's what that's what a general strike.
Yeah, right. That's
but
what
you
we need.
also have to specifically target the dollar, because you can't let all these wealthy people buy their way out of these situations. Like, the system has to collapse around them.
Well,
to where they're stuck wherever they are, literally.
Right, but
because they don't have.
Go ahead.
They won't hurt the working class. It will hurt us in a transition period.
If the
but
dollar,
we just need
if the
food
dollar
and
collapses,
water.
if the dollar collapses, it'll hurt the working class very badly. Now,
well,
the thing
let me
is, you're
articulate.
saying we have to stop this, you know, in order, like, we have to shut everything down. And my point is that if people just stop buying off of Amazon for a week, this will fuck up all the shipping lanes in the entire world, and that will get everybody's attention, and that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Is our representative government
be a
to start
start.
listening to us. What's that?
The government won't ever represent us. The government was built to have capital and for the rich people. That's the working class will never be able to vote our way out of this system. The only thing that keeps these people in power is our belief in the dollar. The fact that the Fed can just print money from nowhere, the banks have fractional reserve lending. We can't compete with the inflation, especially when they haven't raised minimum wage
in 15 years. We need a new government, a social government that has, where we don't spend $2 billion a year to the military, or day, I'm sorry, $2 billion a day to the military. Instead, we need money to go to the people, you know what I'm saying? But the only way to do that is to bankrupt all the people in power, and economics is what white supremacy is. It's economic supremacy. If we, like you say, how will it not, like, all we need, the working class people need, is food and shelter. You know, they can't evict us all. They can't, you know, we can sit there and grow our own food and nationalize our local food sources. Like, it won't be as much of a problem for us once we're going through a revolution to feed ourselves as it will for the rich people to maintain their empires. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, we'll go through maybe a little turmoil, but the rich people, the wealthy, their whole entire world will be collapsing unrecoverably.
But you know what? Even if their world was collapsing, the rich people have back doors in order to, I'm going to go to Paraguay now where they have no extradition, and I have my $5 million house, which in Paraguay is like a $20 million house, and and sitting there is a pile of gold.
What you're saying.
Yeah, that's not going to hurt the rich people.
But what I'm talking about is an all-encompassing, because the dollar supports every other currency. So if we start collapsing the dollar, yeah, there will be some people being able to escape the net. But once they go to these countries that will eventually be freed from capitalism, there will not be no $500 million mansions. No, the people are going to do the same thing they did here, root out all the rich, wealthy people and nationalize all these giant mansions and all these mega churches and turn them into housing and community centers. That's what I'm talking about. So the rich people, their superpower is the value of money. But if we unite against the dollar, that takes away all their power. We don't need money to grow food off the ground, but they need that money to get that jet into Paraguay and to grease all those wheels, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We can all plant seeds in our yards, and there's plenty of canned food that we can nationalize, who's going to stop a mob of people going to these warehouses and dispersing food that's been stored?
See, the problem, the problem with the mob of people in this country is
it's not a mob.
It's what you called it. I'm using your word. Go ahead.
We are revolting against the government, and we're talking about nationalizing food. We're not talking about loot. Well, anyways, there's going to be a lot of looting, but so what? We have all been economically oppressed by the wealthy for so long.
Right.
Like, they own everything, and we are born into poverty and have had no chance to escape except the very select few that are allowed to escape poverty. Like all the wealthy people that own the banks. Who I'm talking about are the people who own the banks that have never, ever had to work. And they own the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve gets to print money, and they get unlimited money. We have to stop that. This whole system of the United States government, we have to completely redo it.
I agree with that.
Rome fell. 250 years is the average for an empire to last, and this country is a few years away.
Yeah, well,
the revolution is happening.
I think the founding fathers really expected a revolution to happen long before now, because they gave us all the tools we needed to make it happen, and for whatever reason, I think people are kind of been lax on it for 100 years or so, because this government is just fucked up for a long time, and we need to fix it so bad. What's your name?
Okay, Keep it anonymous.
Okay,
But I've caught your show a couple times and try to catch you on the last bit. Like to talk about, we just need to stop talking all this bullshit, because voting ain't going to change nothing. Democrats and Republicans, they're both owned by the banks.
Yeah, they're the same.
And corporations.
They're the same.
It's like, but the thing is, the millennials and Gen Z, we aren't buying the narrative anymore. It's only the Gen X and the boomers that are buying into it. It's like the narrative is being broken, and soon there will be a completely new government. We're going to have a socialist working class revolution just around the corner.
I can't tell you how much I look forward to that.
Outstanding.
All right, thanks for
we gotta
calling.
Get together.
That's
sir,
what
I appreciate it, man.
I call for that every single night. We have to have a giant conversation in which we're not fucking enemies. We're together working. I wish we could all have a big bong. I wish we could all have a big bong hit right at the same time, and then start this giant discussion.
Absolutely.
Because it would open your mind to the people that are closed-minded. It would open their mind, and it would help everybody have more empathy. So, all right.
Me, I used to be extremely right-wing. That's the last thing I'm saying. I used to be completely right-wing, pro-cop, pro-military, but I just educated myself out of that. Operation Northwoods was 9/11. So
yeah, I think that
I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, it's really good to hear from you. I look forward to talking to you soon. You should call back sometime in the next, as soon as you can.
I got you, brother. I'll give you a ring.
All right,
Help
good.
With all these trolls.
Yeah.
I'll see you, brother.
All right, talk to you soon, I hope. Bye. All right, so let's see. I think I don't like the labels. I don't know about this type of government or that type of government. I just know that the type of government we have commits evil every day around the world in your name, with your money, in our names, with our money, that should be going to making good things happen in the world. If you want your children to have a better world to live in, then, like I said, we should have gone to Afghanistan and we should have said, here's $100 billion. How can we help you? We should be doing that in Gaza. We should go there with $1 billion, $10 billion, and say, hey, we're here to help. What is it you need most? Of course, what they need is someone to back them up. A decent government in the world who actually cares about the downtrodden. Where is that government? It's not just our government that's fucked. It's all of them. Okay, and let me get back to this. When I say, making good things happen in the world, right? I mean the United States, and I mean everywhere in the world. And I tell people this all the time about their neighborhood. If you do good things in your neighborhood, if you make it a little better, like let's say lift homeless people off the street and put them into these little houses or whatever, hotel rooms or whatever, then you make your community a nicer place, right? There's not trash and homeless people. Man, Craig was watching these videos the other day of people who just drive through cities, right? And one of the cities the dude was driving through, or the girl, the lady, I'm not sure who it was, dudette, was Ibiza in Spain, and driving, there is no parking space. I drive for miles and miles and miles. I could not see one parking space. That being said, there's also no litter. There's no litter on the streets at all. It's like spotless. And no homeless people, which I'm not sure how they accomplished that. But probably because they make sure they have places to live, which is what a compassionate society would do, what a Christian society would do. This government, this nation, the people like with the loud microphones that are like supposed to be in charge of the government, the representatives, they love calling this a Christian nation. That's not the way I see it. Unless, of course, you're talking about this deity who is going to send its own fallible creation into never-ending agony. I guess that makes sense if that's what you mean by Christian. Again, if we pick these people up, right? Where there was like a city in France and a city in Spain this guy was driving through, no trash, spotless, right? The sidewalks looked like they just got swept everywhere he drove, or she drove. And it was almost shocking. I don't know if it's like, you know, I know like in, and it just looked so different, right? It looked like, the streets and the road almost looked like they were sparkly, like they were brand new, the sidewalks. It just looked so amazingly clean. And even like he was watching some videos where people were like walking through really old parts of the city where they just have like narrow little corridors and there's like little shops here and little shops there, and it was just so fucking spotless clean, you know. So it's what, 500 years old, you know, or older. I mean, they looked really old, and there's just no trash anywhere, no trash cans, no trash. So I don't know, maybe Americans just make like 10 times as much trash as people in other places in the world make. It's entirely possible. You still think that we'd be able to have it under control. I don't know, I got distracted there. I don't know where I was going with all that. But again, we can make good things happen. Oh, I know what it was. If we make our community a little better place by lifting these people up over here, or these people that need help with food assistance or whatever it is, right? If you lift these people up, that makes your community a nicer place, which means where you live is a nicer place. How can that be a bad thing, that the place you live just got a little nicer? Again, basic logic, people. You want to lift, you want to make our community better. And you don't do that by sending people to prison that need help. And that's where our government, that's where our country has gone. And we call ourselves a compassionate Christian country. Where do you get that from? All right, I got one more video I'm going to play for you. This will be your last opportunity to call the Mox News Wake and Bake News at 7 p.m. Mox News, your Wake and Bake News at 7 p.m. So I have one more video. It is clip number 2 out of a bunch of them. And it's Glenn Greenwald. I posted it earlier on the YouTube page. So, but I think it's a really important video because it's not so much that it's a really important video so much as that just the basic knowledge, the basic logic here of why we're up in a 20-year war is the basic logic of that, the basic understanding of that is beyond value. It's priceless. So I thought that I should share that with you in case you missed it earlier. I'm going to be right back. It's a short clip. Be right back.
The problem is there's a permanent national security state in the United States that is supported by the establishment wings of both parties and the media that always favors war. They always want more war. They always want it to continue for a lot of different reasons. Yeah, I think there's a huge pro-war sentiment and bias on the part of DC elites who don't have to send their kids over to fight. They have other families do it for them.
Glenn Greenwald, a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. Glenn, it's stunning to see the turnaround in statements from 1 month ago, both from President Biden and from General Mark Milley, to the reality on the ground 1 month later. Were these leaders wrong, or were they lying to us about what they were seeing 1 month ago?
I think we've been hearing a consistent message basically since the beginning of the war in Afghanistan, going all the way back to December 2001, when George W. Bush essentially proclaimed that the Taliban had been vanquished and defeated. The same message being that the United States was making great progress in building up the Afghan national security forces, and they would soon be able to stand on their own in defending the government and protecting the country against the Taliban, when we know for certain, not speculatively, but for certain, that inside the government, military leaders and political officials for at least a decade privately were recognizing that what they were assuring the public was true was actually a lie, that the Afghan National Security Forces were a joke. And therefore, the reason it seems shocking to watch the Taliban overrun Afghanistan isn't because we left Afghanistan. Donald Trump wanted to leave Afghanistan too, and wanted to do it quickly, and I supported him in doing so. The reality is the Taliban was always going to take over once we left. The reason it's shocking is because the government, up until 5 weeks ago with Biden and Milley, and going back years, was lying to the public that there was a viable police and military force there that could protect the country when there never was.
Yeah, there obviously was not. Reality has just interrupted that lie. So who are we to trust going forward, Glenn, as we look at this? I think there is a worthy debate, and you and I might fall on separate sides of this debate, on whether or not we should have left some residual force in Afghanistan, not to nation build, not to try to bring democracy to Afghanistan, but whether or not to serve as a forward operating base to fight terrorism. But I don't know who we can trust to give us the reality on the ground moving forward. Certainly not the President of the United States, and it doesn't appear to be the top military leadership as well.
Well, again, I mean, if Donald Trump had succeeded in his plan, if he had been reelected and followed through on his commitment, he would have removed all troops from Afghanistan. I support him,
right.
And Joe Biden in that, because this is the longest war in American history. And I think we have to come to grips after what we've seen in Iraq and Syria and Libya, that no matter how well-intentioned we might be, no matter how poorly intentioned we might be, no matter how great our strategy sounds in think tanks and, State Department and Pentagon offices in Washington, we can't control other countries on the other side of the world using military force. These are very complex, old, and very different countries. And every time we try, we seem to make things worse, not just for those countries, but also for ourselves. We lost thousands of lives and billions of dollars in Afghanistan, only for it to go right back to 2001 as if the whole thing had never happened. And at some point, we have to restore humility to our own sense of what we can do in the world with regard to other countries. We're having a hard enough time managing our own country.
Glenn, I read your Twitter feed today. You heard me probably in the introduction to this segment apportion blame directly to Joe Biden. But I have to be honest with you, my antennas go up just a little bit, because I'm sharing an opinion, at least in that respect, that seemingly everyone else in the media shares. I could put it on Morning Joe or put it on CNN. I could listen to every single national security analyst, and everyone is mad at Joe Biden today. It does make my antennas go up a little bit. Should it?
Absolutely. I think that, look, if you look at the lives of the American people and what they're struggling with and what they care about, this is what I was always saying about Russiagate, is I don't think Americans are waking up worried about Vladimir Putin. I don't think Americans are waking up worried about how Kandahar and Kabul are being governed. The problem is there's a permanent national security state in the United States that is supported by the establishment wings of both parties and the media that always favors war. They always want more war. They always want it to continue for a lot of different reasons. And I think that the presidents that get attacked the most are the ones who defy that. When Obama refused to attack Assad, when Donald Trump tried to improve relations with Russia and with Syria, and now Joe Biden doing what multiple American presidents in polls have overwhelmingly showed Americans want, which is finally ending this 20-year-old war. So, yeah, I think there's a huge pro-war sentiment and bias on the part of D.C. elites who don't have to send their kids over to fight. They have other families do it for them.
Glenn Greenwald, always interesting. Thank you so much for being with us on this show tonight.
Thank you, Will.
All right.
The problem is there's a permanent national security state in the United States that is supported by the establishment wings of both parties and the media that always favors war. They always want more war. They always want it to continue for a lot of different reasons. Yeah, I think there's a huge pro-war sentiment and bias on the part of D.C. elites who don't have to send their kids over to fight. They have other families do it for them.
Okay, so the host of that show, I don't know if you heard what he said, But he said, what I heard him say was that he could turn it on to any news, right? He could turn it on CNN, he could turn it on MSNBC, he could put it on Fox News, and everyone was saying the same thing about what a horrible mistake this Afghanistan thing was. And this is what I keep telling you, is that there isn't a right or a left, right? There is not. There is not conservatives. There's not conservative news. There's not liberal news. They're the same. They agree. We have to have never-ending wars. How can you possibly not have never-ending wars based on lies that we make for profit? Okay, there's no right, there's no left. There's just this fucking machine that's mowing over us. It's already mowed over us. Right now it's mowing over your grandchildren's future, which I don't know if you have children, and it doesn't really matter to me. You know, and that's the thing, is it doesn't really matter to me so much whether or not your children have such a great future. It really doesn't. It really doesn't affect me. The thing is that I know we as a species could do better. We could do better, right? We could make good things happen in the world. And for some reason, our government that has so much money to just throw away on garbage meant to spread death and despair. Our government just has endless money to throw away on ugly, horrible despair. And it could be making good things happen in the world. Our government, our United States could be truly beloved by people everywhere in the world. We could be looked at as if we were the real force for good in the world. I don't know how we're looked at around the world. What I understand is that, you know how, you know, teenagers and 20-somethings go out backpacking in Europe, right? And they used to always like wear their American flag on their backpack. From what I understand, they don't do that anymore. And that's because they don't want to be targets. Because people have a problem with spreading evil, death, and despair everywhere our people go. People in other countries actually have a problem with that. People in other countries are actually aware of the fact that that's who our government is. So it's time for us to do something about it. It's time. You know, otherwise, what's left for the people after us? What good did we make happen in the world? Because we could be making so much good happen in the world every single day. And, you know, I mean, it's nice that I get to say hi to my neighbors and try and make the world a little more friendly place, you know. But I think at this point we need to think bigger, you know. Like I said, one of these things that humans are good at is growing stuff, right? And I believe that if it was any kind of a priority, even a little tiny small priority, that we could make the earth, the planet, completely green everywhere. It'd be so simple. It's one of these things that humans have been doing for like, what, 50,000 years they've been gardening? I think probably longer than that. But let's give them 50,000 years. Humans have been gardening. It's one of those things that we're really good at. And for whatever reason, again, instead of doing that, making the world green, you know, feeding the world, we spread death and despair. I'm sorry, not we. I don't really put it onto you. I think you and I and other U.S. citizens are the only ones who can make it stop. And I don't think that voting is ever going to work to do that. All right. We do this every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, which means we'll be back tomorrow. Same Mox time, same Mox channel. And until then, stay cool. Wait a minute. Boo Bear just came in the room. I think he knows when I say, you know, we do this every Monday through Friday. He knows, right? Because you can tell when he's on the couch and sitting down by the river where he belongs. Why aren't you down by the river, Boo Bear? When he sits down by the river, and I say, we do this every Monday through Friday, because he's laying there. I say, we do this every Monday through Friday. He looks up like this. So, time for crunchies? No, it's teethy brushing day. Ooh, you love teethy brushing day. It's teethy brushing day. So, I got that going for me. So I got to go take care of that. Where were we? Oh, right. We do this every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, which means we'll be back tomorrow. Same Mox time, same Mox channel. Until then, stay cool, because one of these days, this war is going to end. Stay cool till then.
I mean, this coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united. I wish the coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united. Coalition of misfits, and they cobble together. I mean, this coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united. I wish the coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united. Coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united. Coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united. Coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united. Coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united.
No matter which mouth you feed on a two-headed snake, it still shits the same turd. But lucky for you, you have Mox News. More than 10 years. More than 60,000 videos. Mox News has been filtering the nonsense and illuminating the bullshit from your mainstream media. Turn off your TV and turn on to Mox News. For over a decade, documenting the socio-political events that have etched and carved the pathways that define today's modern mess, Mox News has been providing clarity while faithfully bringing you today's relevant stories 100% commercial-free and subscription-free. And just like Lady Liberty vows to remain free. But at this time, we're asking you for your help, your patronage, and your support to keep the lights on and the videos rolling. For less than 17 cents per day, you can become a basic subscriber, knowing that your donation is truly making a difference that will help continue bringing the news stories that make a difference in your life. Turn on, tune in, and drop a couple dimes today by clicking the link below or visiting moxnews.com and show your support at any level. From a single one-time donation or dedicated monthly subscriber, do it now in less than 2 minutes. All donations are safe, securely processed, and verified using PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover Card. As always, we're sure you'll find something of interest each and every day. This holiday season, give the gift of Mox. moxnews.com.